everybody, because we have declared the meeting opened, officially opened. I wish to welcome everyone. As I have been mentioning throughout the month, that this is a Human Rights Month, and we are only having a Human Rights Day on the 21st. You know, this is very, very sensitive and crucial in terms of the Bill of Rights of Chapter 2, which we all agreed and allow that the Constitution must also lead us. You know, as South Africans and people that are serving the South Africa, we have to be very cautious and make sure that we do the service delivery to our people the way that the people are expecting us to do to them. Knowing that we still have hinges and some glitches in terms of making sure that we do that. And looking at that, we are only left with, I would say, 1 year in this term. And we have to have a legacy that we leave behind. And even if those that will continue without having any fear, at least by pointing that as the Portfolio Committee of Social Development, we have done ABC. But I know for a fact that all honorable members are looking forward to do that, because there's nothing that we have been elected for except to make the service delivery that is expected to all our South Africans. Honorable members and officials, guests that are with us, I don't want to waste lot of time, knowing that we have a very, very restricted time that we are having. And looking at our programs that we always has to shelve them or defer them for the next meetings, which is not accepted, because it also put us in the program sort of a reverse. We don't have to reverse our program. We have to stick our program or plan that we are having, so as not to leave anything behind. We know for a fact that there is this issue of buses. And when we allow the presentation from today, we do have to have a specific and stipulated time for the officials to present. And even ourselves as members, we have to at least limit our speaking time, not to have preamble before we ask the question. We go straight to the question, and we have to have each member to have limited numbers of questions, so as to give everyone to be able to have questions and give space for the officials or the department to answer us. And we don't shelve programs and items for that. Those are the welcoming remarks that I think I must have and do them for the today. Lindy, can we then confirm the attendance or make a roll call on out of whom do we have in the meeting? Do we correct? And also include that with apologies. I welcome everyone in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Today is the 15th of March, 2023. We have scheduled a meeting with the Social Development. Chair, I have the following members that are present on this meeting.
Recording
Member
in
Mbana
progress.
as the chairperson of this committee. We have Member Abrahams, we have Member Manganye, we have Member Masango, we have Member Priet, we have Member Aris, we have Member Van der Merwe, we have Member Stock, we have Member Hlongo. Chair, I've received an apology from the Deputy Minister, who is unable to attend today's meeting. She has been scheduled for an interview at the same time as this meeting, so she won't be able to make it. Thank you very much, Chair. Those are the confirmation of members present, which were a quorum, and we can take decision in this meeting, as well an apology from the Deputy Minister. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Lindy. Thank you very much. Can we give over to the department to tell us who is not in the meeting and who's in the meeting?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Good morning to yourselves and honorable members. I do want to confirm that we are all in the meeting, even though some of the colleagues will be intermittent in the meeting. We've got 3 presentations we're making at the cluster, but we've accordingly managed to ensure that those who need to be are here. So the department is represented. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Linton. Then it means that we can proceed with our meeting with decorate. You are welcome back, Linton. I understand, and with your team, you were out of the country in Botswana or Namibia. I'm not sure, I can't remember, but you are welcome back home. Can Lindy flag the agenda for us?
Chair, can you see the agenda, Chair?
Yeah, thank you, Lindy. We are able to see it. We are done with, we are on item of adopting the agenda, but we definitely know after that we will give over to the minister. Welcome back, Minister. We are very grateful that you came back, and you know that you have represented us in that platform that you were attending. Can we, Lindy, adopt the agenda? Can you? Yeah, the agenda is the briefing by the department. And then can I get the hand that adopts the agenda so that we can be able to give over the minister?
Chair.
Honorable Mangan.
Adopting the agenda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mangan. With the inclusion of the minister.
Yes, I've seen her.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Manganyi. We are adopting the agenda with the inclusion of the political overview by the minister. Then any seconder? Any seconder of the agenda, adoption of the agenda?
I would like to second Honorable Manganyi in adopting the agenda for the day. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Masango, for seconding the adoption of the agenda. Can we then go straight to the minister and give her the platform to do the political overview for us? Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. A very good morning to you and a very good morning to South Africans who take interest in what the Department of Social Development as well as the Portfolio Committee does in relation to issues of social development. Chairperson, just on a lighter note, I'm happy that Umabizo Wam is back, Ulindiwe, and we thank God that she's back on her own 2 feet. We always appreciate life itself. So, Chairperson, Honorable Mvana, and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, yes, Honorable Chairperson, thank you very much for reminding us of the Human Rights Month, but also thank you for reminding us that we were at the United Nations representing South Africa on issues of gender equality we attended all the activities and the meetings that were related to the Commission on Gender Equality. And I must indicate South Africa was very well represented, not only by government, but even by the NGO sector that raised the flag very high at that international platform. I'm told that the DM is not here, so I will say DM Bokopane Zulu in absentia. The Acting Director General, Mr. Mchunu, and all senior managers from the Department of Social Development. Good morning, and thank you, Honorable Chair and members, for this opportunity to present the third quarter performance report of the department for your consideration. This report speaks to the department's performance during the period October to December 2022 against the strategic priorities that are set out in the annual performance plan for the 2022-2023 financial year. May I add, Chairperson, to that also, it is about the operational plans thereof, because if members will recall, I've indicated that the department does not only present to us, the executive, myself, and the DM, the APP, but they also present to us the operational plans, because we want to be aware of all the programs that the department has, as well as the funding thereof, the budget thereof is also very important to us. Today marks 15 days before the end of the financial year and just over 400 days towards the end of the 6th administration's electoral term, as the chairperson also indicated. This quarterly performance report, like many before it, is an opportunity for us to come account to the public, because it is at the behest of the public that we continue to serve. Please do continue to assist us by guiding and strengthening what we do, holding us to account and ensuring that we are responding to the felt needs of your constituencies and South Africans in general. As you will see from the presentation, we have made some good progress in a number of areas. For instance, in the first quarter, the department recorded 80% achievement and 20% deviation. In the second quarter, we achieved 74% of the APP targets with 26% deviation, which represents 6% decline in performance during the second quarter. The presentation will identify specific programs and reasons for deviation, as well as performance improvement measures that have been put in place. For the period under review, notable performances include 84% achievement of APP targets with 16% deviation, implementation of the entity oversight framework, which I've always raised with the department that this is important, that the department really takes entity oversight very seriously. Work is being done towards the development of the Social Development Index, the adjudication of social assistance appeals within 90 days, and 5, the submission of state party report on the rights of the child. Honorable Chair and members, we will notice that we are striving to have our performance consistently hovering above the 80% mark. Equally, we are working on sustainable approaches by which we can steadily increase future performance. Today's presentation will focus on the expenditure report for each of the 5 programs of the department. Of importance for this committee to know the over expenditure under programs. Chairperson, they haven't muted the members.
I'm sorry, Chair, I've muted everyone. The minister can unmute herself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mabizo. Of importance for the committee to note is the over expenditure under program 1, which is driven by the monthly average expenditure of 6 million due to the COVID-19 SRD toll-free line. The department will provide you with the relevant details on this matter. With less than 13 months left before the next general elections, The challenge is for us to improve areas that can be improved and keep the momentum and upscale in as far as our programs are concerned. This is truer in areas that will bring meaningful difference in the lives of the people. And because this is what this is all about, is about improving the lives of our people. And Chairperson, as I conclude, and honorable members, I'd like to thank you for your unrelenting support and cooperation. With your permission, Honorable Chair, I now invite the Acting Director General of the Department of Social Development to render the presentation, and also to indicate, Chair, that we have cabinet today. So I requested just to step out for making these opening remarks. I will be around a few more minutes, and then I will then return to the cabinet meeting. Thank you very much, Chair, and a very good morning to all members of the Portfolio Committee.
Thank you very much, Minister, and all the best for the cabinet meeting. Can we then give over to Linton? We are excused whenever you think that you have to go. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Honorable Chair. And again, let me greet the honorable members. We'll put the presentation on the screen, and I'll make a few points on the presentation. I would like to, as I start the presentation, just ask the following people be ready: Civil, Isabella, Edlaka, Tabani, and Hope, as well as Pearl, because I want you to come in after I have made a few points. So, Chair, thank you. We are presenting, of course, our Q4 performance report to the Q3 rather performance report, which covers the months of October to December 2022, and of course we are highlighting both our performance and our performance in terms of our targets, in terms of our predetermined objectives, against rather the predetermined objectives of the current annual performance plan. And of course, you would note that we started off well in the first quarter at around 8. Please shift the slides to slide number 2. 3. Yeah, you would note, Chair and honorable members, that we had started well, and by achieving around 80% in the first quarter. We had dropped to around 74% in the second quarter, but in the third quarter we started getting back, I suppose, to winning ways, if you like. And of course, one of the reasons why we continued to improve, particularly in the third quarter, is particularly because we had started our how do I say, our performance review sessions, which have really led to us making sure that performance remains at a high. Now, you would argue that 80 it's not where we want to, because these are predetermined objectives. We ought to be meeting 100%, and this is the consistent message that I've been indicating to my colleagues. And so this is, it may be good from some quarters, but our view is that we can do a lot better. And I think that the interventions that we've put in place are definitely going to assist us to continue on this way. But of course, you also note that in the past 3 years, at least before 3 years, our performance had been sitting in the 40s and in the 50s. And of course, some of the interventions we've employed have certainly assisted. But again, this is not enough. We are confident that we can reach 100% of these targets, and this is what we continue to get our colleagues to commit to. Part of what we do in our review sessions, of course, is to ensure that we put actionable items and corrective measures in place to ensure that the targets don't lag behind in the following quarters by way of causing a ripple effect, but that they are addressed accordingly. And so we get colleagues to actually commit to the measures that they've put in place, and we monitor those quite stringently in terms of how we mitigate the areas of what could go wrong. And so that's risk in a sense, managing the risks. I think just to also highlight, our performance is in line with the endeavors and commitments. Okay. Sorry, Chair, I believe I'm a bit far from the microphone. I'm going to ask that we do this. Sibiwe, please mute that and close the volume so I can.
Is that better, Chair? I hope it's better. Okay.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you very much. So as I was indicating that our performance is in line with our endeavors and indeed our commitments that we've made to the portfolio committee of not achieving less than 80% of our targets, with the ultimate goal of fully meeting all of our objectives. So as I indicated, it may be the case, but we are very confident that we can do a lot better. I just wanted to indicate that we also do continue to implore the various lessons that we've learned from previous quarters, taking those into consideration and becoming a lot more sterner in terms of how we ensure that we address or meet our respective targets. But I think also the guidance that comes from the members of the committee is becoming more and more entrenched in terms of our operations and how we do our work, particularly as it relates to the impact that we achieve on the ground through our interventions. And you will see a little bit later, I'll provide guidance on how we will report on this. I just thought it's also important that I add that during this period of reporting, there are a number of very significant engagements that took place, some of which included some members of the committee. And let me just highlight just a few. You'd recall that we observed Social Development Month in October. And again, we use that opportunity to really highlight the work that we are doing as a portfolio across the Republic. We've got provinces to also do so, including our agencies, to really showcase the offerings that we have as an organization and to alert people around how they can participate in some of the programs that we have available, but also how we dispense information to them. Of course, we also had the festive season campaign, which really focused on substance abuse. And whilst, yes, a lot of emphasis was on drugs, we made determined efforts to really place more of an emphasis also on alcohol abuse, particularly because we are going into the festive season and we are aware that sometimes people would be inclined to celebrating through alcohol. And so we just try to make sure that we go on a very solid campaign in various areas across the Republic, dealing with issues of substance abuse and more so addressing issues of alcohol. We also, during that time, had, of course, the areas around the work around Disability Awareness Month, you would recall. And we have had some interventions in that space, working with the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. And of course, last week you received a presentation to this effect, which encompassed some of those areas. But also we had, of course, 16 days of activism of no violence against women and children. I think the important thing to highlight here is that whilst it may be 16 days dedicated between November and December, ours is to, in fact, what we do have is a plan that encompasses the entire 365 days of the year. And so this is a consistent program that we have across the Republic through our agencies and also through the provinces around this work. And of course, World AIDS Day was also held, and we participated significantly within that context as well. Now, you would also note that during that period, floods escalated in some areas, particularly in KZN, the Eastern Cape and other provinces. And again, we continue to provide a level of support, even though we were quite stretched. We continue to provide the support that was required on our end. And I think the other very significant aspect that happened was we saw an intensification of load shedding, which caused very serious social impacts to households, but also to our services, and of course we had to improve various measures to address some of those challenges, including the provision of additional food in some cases, and extending additional support, whether it be psychosocial support and otherwise. I think the other thing I just wanted to make on this slide very quickly is the aspect around the fact that we've heard the call by members of the portfolio committee indicating that at times they're not sure what are some of the programs in their various constituencies or provinces. And of course, we have committed to share that information with you. I know last week or the week before last, we have submitted some information. We will continue to do so. And I think what we will also want to do a lot more is to ensure that we invite committee members to some of the programs that we have. And so members are able to see the impact that is derived from some of these programs, but also you are able to talk to some of what you see by way of oversight in some of these engagements that we would have as an organization. So the question would be, are we turning the corner? And I would say certainly we're turning the corner as an organization. The performance may not be an accurate measurement in terms of the real impacts achieved on the ground. We know that there's a lot of other things that we're doing, even things outside of the APP that we're doing, but I do think that our work is making a difference. Can we do more? Most certainly we can. And I think that the measures we've employed, including the guidance that we've taken from the committee, are some of the aspects that we've already infused into our work. And you'll hear a little bit more about this when we start presenting around some of the programs. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like for some of my colleagues to come in. We can go to the next slide. Maybe before we do that, I do want to just acknowledge, next slide. You would see this is what I spoke to earlier in terms of the summary of performance, that we are sitting at 84. In fact, if I were to be a little bit technical around some of these things, I would argue that at least 2 targets, maybe 3, are actually achieved, because we overachieved in one of the targets in the previous quarter. The other targets had dependencies on the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor and other related matters. So if you look at the true actual achievements in terms of these targets, we're probably sitting at around 88, 89%. If I was not technical, if I was technical to the core in terms of how we achieve some of it. You can go to the next slide. This is just really showing you the breakdown in terms of the quarters where the performance has been. Of course, we see program 2 in the first 2 quarters was not doing very well. This is the disbursements of grants. And of course, in quarter 3, that was done effectively. This, in fact, the zeros that you see on quarter 1 and 2 are actually technical issues. The grants were dispersed accordingly. They were transferred accordingly. It was just the technical issues around the language in the targets. And of course, you would see that program 4 has always been consistent in terms of achieving a significant amount. Even though they have the most targets, they've consistently done well. We had a decline in program 5 in the second quarter, but improved in the third quarter briefly. And of course, program 1 has improved drastically, looking at 80%. Program 3 has also improved quite a bit. So those are just a breakdown of some of the programs. Now, as we go to the next slide, I would like for Civil to talk to these are the targets that were not achieved, honorable members. And again, we will indicate to you, there are 10 targets actually, and we'll indicate to you why these were not achieved. And what I would like is for the colleagues that will come now to talk to why the targets were not met, the remedial action taken, what's the status of the target now as we're in Q4, and of course, the impact on the overall annual targets. So I'd like for Civil to come first. Immediately after Civil, Isabella will come, and then Advocate Laza.
Okay, thank you, Acting DG.
Okay, we seem to have a problem with Civil not being in the meeting. So I'll ask Isabella to address that as the responsible DG.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairperson of the committee members, Minister, and colleagues. I would want to start with the target on professional social services and older persons, where we were expected, to populate the tool on readiness assessment for the implementation of the white paper. I think here we really, to be honest, we had to be careful in terms of when we are planning, because it has got dependencies on the finalization of the white paper. At the moment that we were supposed to populate the tool that we have already developed, we had to engage NEDLAC, and we had to ensure that whatever comes out of NEDLAC will also influence the indicators that are on the tool, and therefore we could not populate because we had to take into consideration the inputs that have been made, you know, to the tool. But as I'm talking now, we have finalized that process, and we have looked at the indicators and we have revised them accordingly, and we have commenced, you know, with the readiness assessment that we have planned, and I could assure members that we'll be able to achieve this target at the end of the Q4. Thanks, DG. And now coming to social crime prevention, when you look at when you look at what we have planned, technically, as DG has said, we have achieved this target. The only thing is that our targets, you know, the men in Q2, we planned to capacitate 2 provinces. However, because the other province had to drop us on the 24th hour, one of the cluster departments was ready, and we've been able to capacitate 1 province and 1 cluster department. Now, technically, you can say that we have achieved because we've been able to capacitate 2 as planned. However, according to the plan, you know, there's those technicalities that I'm talking about. It was about the provinces. Now, when coming to Q3, we were supposed to capacitate 2 cluster departments. Now, because we capacitated 1 cluster department in the previous quarter, we had to focus on the provinces. And when you look at the manner in which we have done, we've been able to capacitate 1 cluster department that was still that we planned to, but we also, in addition to that, to add to the deviation that we encountered in the second quarter, we capacitated 2 provinces. So in addition, according to this target, we were supposed to capacitate 4, to do capacity building for 4, which is 2 cluster departments and 2 provinces. However, we have been able to capacitate 3 provinces plus 2 cluster departments. So that's the technicality in terms of that. Thanks.
Thanks, Isabella. Let's go to Advocate Dladla.
Okay. Thank you, DG. Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, Honorable Minister. It was impossible, Honorable Chair, to meet this target during the third quarter because it was anticipated that the Children's Amendment Bill would have been finalized by this workers' committee at the time, since we were targeting the 11th of November 2021, which was the date when was the last date for when the court, the High Court orders on to that. Hence, this target was in this version. Chair, the regulations, as we all know, they emanate from the Act. So since the Act, the CAB, the Children's Amendment Bill was the only passed into law in December, and we are, of course, as a sanguine Chair, that we started to be met during this fourth quarter. The only reason why, Chair, I would say that it was not met, it was because this workers' committee was being put in the bill during this reporting period. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Let me ask Tabani to deal with the 2 targets, 1 on population, 1 on M&E.
Yes, Honorable Chairperson and members, good morning. Thanks, and good morning to the Honorable Minister. There are just 2 issues where we did not meet the commitments we have made. One relates to the Sexual Reproductive Justice Conference, which we had planned to take place in the 3rd quarter. But as we started engaging with our provincial counterparts, we realized that there's quite a huge appetite for people to participate. Hence, the plan then was to say, let's then roll out a series of seminars. So during this period, instead of having a conference, we started having various engagements in all the provinces with all these different stakeholders that had an interest in this subject. And the conference is already planned and will be opened by the minister. It will be taking place here in Gauteng on the 22nd as well as 24th of this month. So we're still going to have this conference, especially on this subject matter, which covers a wide range of issues relating to sexual and reproductive justice. The second part all members will recall that the department, so that it's able to tell the story if it's doing well or not and the impact that it's making. We have then developed this electronic M&E system, which is a 3-year project to develop. One of the things that you wanted to do, the system has been developed, is now to take and test it, how it's working under what conditions, because this system is not just a system that will have it here nationally applied. It must go to a district, even at a service delivery point. And because of the nature of our services, the issues of the networking and all those things, these are things that we are realizing. Pilot has been done now in all 3 provinces, which is the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, and KwaZulu-Natal. This is just for testing, but the rollout will happen in all the provinces. So for us to complete all the data, we could not complete that within the 3 months that we had, but the pilot has been done. So it's only the Eastern Cape where we have a completed report, but for Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal is what we've been working with in terms of competing, in terms of coming with the report. But the pilot itself has been done, but it's just that when you need to produce, say, you need to have a pilot report because of that technicality is then about to say it means the pilot has not been done. I'll then hand over back to the acting teacher.
Thanks, Tabani. Let's get Pearl, Dr. Pearl, to deal with the target on youth. Pearl's not here. Let's get Hope then to deal with that target, as well as the targets relating to poverty alleviation, sustainable livelihoods, and food security.
Thanks, DJ. The department could not, on the youth development, the department could not meet the target to train 300 youth on skills development program during Q2-3. However, they had exceeded their target in Q2, and they trained 255 in Q2. But more youth will be trained during the Q4, just to finalize and achieve the target. So the target will be met in Q4. All processes have been done, and the directorate is busy with achieving the training in Q4. And then coming to poverty alleviation, sustainable livelihood, and food security. The target that was not met was the reviewed sustainable livelihood framework, which was supposed to be submitted to Cabinet for approval. There were other processes that made to prepare for Cabinet processes. There were other processes that we had to go through, consultations, more consultations, and also clear the fact that the framework had to go to Cabinet and stuff. But at the moment, we are on track because we have presented to the technical working group, and today, as we sit, the other colleagues are presenting to the to the social cluster. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to Anthony now. These are the last targets that were not achieved before we get to the targets that were achieved. Anthony?
Good morning, Chairperson and colleagues. So in terms of the comprehensive social security paper, we were anticipating that by this quarter we would have gone back to the public to request for comments, but we could not do that because the refinement process of the discussion paper took a bit long, and we had to work with the expert panel. Members would recall that sometime in 2021, the green paper was withdrawn, and due to the technicalities and complexity of the issues at hand that deals with social security in terms of social assistance, social insurance, as well as the institutional framework there, and it's very contested. So we brought on board a technical expert panel to assist us in the refining. So that process took a bit long. Now we have engaged our colleagues in the National Treasury as well as Department of Employment and Labor, so that within government, we are on the same page, and we were then able to take the revised paper to cabinet to request approval for us to republish that paper for public comments. That is a critical process, Chair, that we would want to do. So DG has indicated we are on track now with our colleagues to receive their inputs. The second target that we did not meet from our branch was around the Social Security Review publication target that is to do with editing and peer reviewing of the chapters. We encountered some delays in concluding the call for chapters. When we had the call for chapters, the responses were not very encouraging. So we had to make a decision to extend the call for chapters. I can report that we have since revised the project plan, and we are tightly monitoring, and we should be able to achieve our fourth quarter target, because as we speak now, the authors have been commissioned. So we have made a recovery of this target. Thank you so much, DJ.
No, thanks very much, Anthony. So, honorable members, I thought let me do that so that members could see that there is some progress being recorded in some of the targets that were deemed as not met in Q3, and how we've put together mitigation measures. Now, we're going to change just a little bit, and we're now going to focus on the value of the interventions that we provided, or in other words, the impact of the intervention. You can go to the next slide that we provided. And we'll start with program one. I want Rogers to start with entity oversight as well as stakeholder management. Spend a lot of, focus your intervention on the impact of the intervention, your input rather.
Yeah. Thanks, Chair, honorable members. From the entity oversight, we continue to have interface with the entities that report to the department, focusing on the issues of governance and service delivery. And we have, through this process, managed to elevate key issues that needs resolve, using also things like joint expos. We have dealt during these meetings with matters related to SASSA and SAPO as it pertains to the delivery of social grants. Then on the next target, it's about stakeholder engagement. The department has managed to, I think last December, we met with a group of donors or held a roundtable discussion where we shared the department's priorities and areas where we need some assistance or partnerships. I think, Chair, through this particular engagement, we're getting positive feedbacks. For instance, some of the corporates coming on board, schools where social workers can be actually replaced to deal with issues of mental health, which broadly also affect social development. So we continue on this path, because we understand that social development cannot deliver services on its own, but also depends on partners to execute that. Thanks.
Thanks. Just to add two things to that. One is part of the reason we had the roundtable was to see how we can develop a strategy that talks to getting some critical partners to be part of the work that we do through CSI, but also through designated funding for skills development and training. And the report is being processed in this regard, which will enhance both our technical expertise, but also augment some of the resource challenges that we face as a government. And then just in terms of the entity oversight aspects, I want to add that over and above the governance aspects, we were able to also assist in troubleshooting some of the challenges that we faced with the post office. You'd recall that it was November and December, when the challenges around payments and people not being able to access certain pay points or access points rather was reached, and then we had to escalate some of those matters. So these meetings have been part and parcel of dealing with that, over and above validating some of the remedial action that the entities would embark upon. Let me now go to information management systems and technology. Kumbula and Mapaseka. What's happening?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. In terms of the contact 3 from information management systems, what has been done was to consult with the executives in the department, the HSTS, to present the concept note in terms of the social development integrated case management system. The document has been first developed with all participating departments, the chief information officers from all the participating departments, to map out how are we going to achieve the target within the financial year of by the end of the next financial year. So the document has been adopted by the HSTS. It is now prepared to be presented at the MINMEC. Thank you.
I thought you would talk about the entire value of having this. Why the integration is important.
Okay. So mainly in terms of the integration, what the concept note is articulating, it's the approach in terms of the services, how are we going to integrate? And the main approach is that we want to have one repository in terms of the citizens on the services that they receive from the social cluster. And coupled with that, we need to integrate the services with the justice cluster. So the value that one will get from the system is that when we provide any system to the citizen, we will be having one system that we're utilizing throughout the social cluster in terms of the services that we're going to be providing to the public. So there won't be any eradicating issues of the duplications in terms of the services, and eradicating issues of having the double dipping in terms of the services that we are providing as the cluster to the public. It will also be assisting in terms of getting the accountability as to who has serviced the public, or if there's any query that relates to the social cluster services. It will be easy to pin down to say who had been servicing that particular citizen and what was the outcome, because it will be a real-time system whereby all the social workers, or not only the social workers, but everyone who is playing a role in terms of the services in the social cluster. It will give the whole picture in terms of the services that are provided. And if there are interventions that are required, it will be easy to escalate. The system will have the escalation functionality in terms of all the required services that are dependent or causing a blockage in terms of the interventions of services. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go to HR. Kumbula. Devon is in the cluster meeting, so you can respond.
Well, thank you very much. Firstly, what we needed here was to come up with a sector-wide strategy on the employment of social service professionals to cover it. Now, the strategy has been developed. It has been widely consulted with various stakeholders. By stakeholders here, we mean quite a number of interested departments. who by right should actually participate in the employment of social service professionals. Now, what we have achieved really was to consult 9 provincial social development departments and various stakeholders. We also engaged, of course, with quite a number of other parties outside those that are required to employ directly, but that are pivotal to the financing of this. Inclusive of them is National Treasury. So we had to revise the cost because initially when we produced the strategy, what we wanted was we were actually developing a strategy for not just for this sector, but we were developing a strategy for the entire government. But then after our engagement with National Treasury, it was opined that perhaps we should actually focus ourselves on this sector and not necessarily the entire government. So in terms of what impact we want to achieve here, really is to ensure that we deal with the pervasive social ills that affect our society, and we can list quite a number of them. And the strategy is actually helping us to ensure that there's coordination, that there's collaboration between various government departments to deal with some of these social ills across the country. But what is also important is that we are targeting to address the issue of unemployed social work graduates. You remember that in the past we reported that we've got plus minus 9,000 social work graduates who by and large have received scholarships from the department. But as we do that, we also have quite a number who are coming straight from university, who are actually increasing that number. So the plan, therefore, is to make sure that there is a way to actually attract them and deploy them to where the needs are, and that has been realized.
Thank you. Legal services. I know this is more of a process sort of matter, but do you have anything to add? Okay, no, thanks. Let's then go to MME to round up on program 1, because I think you would want a sense of, the overall monitoring and evaluation that we've employed in some of our services. So I think Tabani can talk a little bit to that.
No, thanks. I think this would relate to probably the whole work that we do. I know honorable members and products such has been concerned about if then we become this department, how are we shifting the ground? How do we know if we're doing well or not? And one of the things we started to do was then to come up with what we have called the Social Development Index. We wanted to have that. One will have this M&E system, which would track how well we are doing in implementing our services and measuring the impact. But you see, with social development, unlike other departments, you go someone from health and say, is health doing well? They will say, look at the under 5 mortality rate. It means they are doing well because it's low and so forth. You go to education, you say how well you are doing, look at illiteracy rate. But social development is difficult because the nature of our poverty as well is multifaceted. So what we're trying to do with this, through all these ICT, legal services, through all these policies, we want at the end to come up with a set of indicators that will begin to measure the extent to which our policies are responding to the issues we want to do. Some of them is poverty, is about combating poverty. So that's a work that we're doing. And it's quite a lot of debate. We're not sure if it's social development index, it's social welfare index, and there's been concept work that we have done and look at what has been done international. And we are making serious progress into this. And we have made sure that even this target is part of the minister's performance agreement, because as a department, we want to find ourselves being measured and being able to tell the story that indeed we are making a shift in terms of the anti-poverty agenda that we need to take as this department. I thought I need just to bring that, but it then encompasses everything that we've done.
Thanks very much, Tabani. Let's then go to program 2. Finally, let's talk about the transfer of grants, social assistance.
Good morning, honorable members. So in terms of social assistance, our program 2, and you would recall that this is the program that we actually transfer money to our SASSA administration entity to do payments on behalf of us to all our social grant beneficiaries. So for Q3, the target was that we was supposed to transfer 62.07 billion to SASSA. We've actually transferred more than that. There we could see what we've transferred since October, November, and December. It's almost 21 billion per month. This is because there was an increase in terms of the payment of our SRB 350 grant. So we've actually achieved the target for Q3 for our social assistance program, and we do monitor this on a monthly basis to ensure that the money that we transfer to SASSA regions for the social grants is actually reconciled on a monthly basis to reflect what is our actual expenditure. And when we get to the slides, I can explain more. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fanny. Let's go to program 3, Social Security Policy and Administration. And Anthony, if you could talk to this, but also then give the relevant colleagues to speak to some of the specific impacts. I'd like to, especially program 4 and 5, I'd really like you to focus on the districts, the provinces where you've made an impact, and also talk to the value of the intervention that you've employed in that manner.
Okay, thank you so much, DG. On that basis, I just want to start by indicating that the branch is looking at a number of policies that are at different stages. And these policies are basically intended to address the needs of vulnerable groups. For example, the policy on integrating children's grants benefits with government services, the income support for the 18 to 59-year-olds, as well as the policy on maternal support. The work that we are doing also in terms of voluntary cover for atypical and informal sector workers. All these are intended to ensure that we provide social security coverage to those vulnerable groups. In the other area that I will request the advocate to speak to relates to the social assistance appeals, which is in line with the constitutional right to have administrative justice in terms of the appeals that we adjudicate. So to talk to the policies, the impact of the policies, I want to request Dr. Maureen to speak to the impact of the social assistance policies that are being consulted on, just at a high level. The advocate will speak to the appeals target. Thank you, DG. Dr. Maureen.
Where's Maureen?
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Chair. Members of the Portfolio Committee, just to mention that the 3 policies that we are actually consulting on are policies that have been in development for a number of years. And we are at the stage where we are finalizing the content in terms of the policy options that are to be in the draft policies. So as Mr. Makorimiti has indicated, we consulted on these policies in almost all provinces. The only province that we are left with is the Free State. We have received overwhelming support in terms of the 3 policies that are on the table. Concerns have just been raised by a few on affordability. However, we are at a position where we can say over 99% of the people that we have consulted are looking forward to the 3 policies. For instance, the policy of linking most of the people that we have consulted, and maybe to highlight that in our consultations, we have consulted with different stakeholders, including academics, beneficiaries themselves. With this ones, we realized that it was important for us to also consult with the people that these policies are intended for. So we went to 9 provinces. We also consulted with beneficiaries in the provinces. We also consulted with officials, both from SASSA and DSD. We also consulted with various NGOs and academic institutions, as well as civil society. So most of our participants indicated that really they are looking forward to these policies because of our policies not really realizing the full impact of our grant because of the fragmentation of the services that are rendered in government. So we are ready, colleagues, to start the process in the next financial year of taking these policies through different levels of cabinet. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, just in relation to the social assistance appeals target, the impact of the target is to ensure that people have access to their constitutional right of administrative justice by ensuring that the administrative decisions taken by SASSA during the grant applications or review of the persons on time has been reviewed by the independent tribunal to ensure that those decisions was lawful, reasonable, and also constitutionally fair. One would see that we achieved the target was 70%, and the tribunal adjudicated 85.89% of appeals within 90 days. It's a slight decrease in relation to the previous quarter, but that is specifically in relation to the fact that the tribunal received a significant increase in the number of appeals received following the Social Assistance Amendment Act. And we are steadily working towards ensuring that we address those as quickly as possible. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for program 3. Let's then move to program 4. Isabella.
Thank you very much, DG, and good morning again, Chairperson and members and Minister. I would really request that I take a different approach, not go slide by slide, because I think program 4 has got too many slides, and in the interest of time, maybe I can just summarize, the achievements. Maybe as a point of departure, just to indicate that the performance that I'm talking about has got 6 sub-programs, your children's legislation and families, which has got 5 targets that have been achieved. HIV and AIDS, 5 targets that have also been achieved. Children's services, 4 targets have been achieved. Social crime prevention have got 6 targets, only 1 is, they all have been achieved, but technically in terms of the explanation that I've given earlier, it means that the targeting, in terms of the targeting, we have not achieved what we planned, but 100% achieved. Office on the Rights of a Child, 1 target achieved. Professional social services, 1 target is the target that I've spoken about in terms of the deviation and making assurance that this quarter will be able to achieve it. Now, when we look at these programs, basically they are focusing on policy, legislation, strategies and frameworks. And the other area is capacity building and monitoring, and also issues of advocacy, and in terms of also implementing some of the programs. Now I'll talk to policies and policies that we have developed and strategies. It's about prevention of and treatment of substance use and revised white paper on families. And there are some guidelines also that we have developed, we have achieved this. These are very important because they serve as a basis for delivering of our services and guidance, in terms of that. And they assist us in terms of ensuring that, we provide quality service, to our people. Now, in terms of capacity building, this cuts across quite a number of programs that have been reported on in this. And maybe I should cite the issue of capacity building on social and behavior change program. I must say that it might appear as capacity building, but it's making quite significant programs, significant impact, because we begin to see, especially with social behavior, we begin to see the programs being established in all the districts, within the country, even though they are not in every community. And in those areas, we begin to see quite a number of changes in terms of the behavior, patterns of people in that area. And there's a study that has been conducted, that indicates that the social behavior change program has made significant progress. So it is important that we capacitate people so that they can be able to implement and to monitor, because monitoring happens at different levels. Even though we monitor at national level, monitoring still happens also at provincial level. So we empower our counterparts so that they can be able to ensure that our programs are very responsive. So I can also give an example of the implementation of the Children's Act. We have seen a change in terms of quality of reports that have been produced and are presented, at the courts, because we had a very serious challenge in terms of the quality of reports. So the capacity building has indicated that people have been able, to understand what the prescripts of the legislation are, and have been able, to effectively utilize that, but also the uniform understanding, and interpretation of the legislation. Now, when I move to monitoring, this is very key. Even though we develop legislation, it is important, and it's exactly what every members always stress, that we need to ensure that our policies translate into the lives of the people, change the lives of the people. So there are some few programs that we are monitoring here. We looked at what is happening, what are the developments, the issue of the teenage pregnancy. We have been able to come up with a DST, integrated school health program, which is specifically for DSD, but it is aligned to the overall plan, that is being led by Department of Health, and that we've been monitoring, in terms of how the provinces are doing in that regard. We've also been monitoring the program of action on foster care and the Sinovuyo program. Families are very critical. We need to empower our families, and therefore we need to put program. The Sinovuyo program is a program that is a program that is for both the children and the caregivers, and also parents, to empower them in terms of how they should relate and how they should communicate in the family. But also we've got the RISIHA program, we call it the community-based prevention and intervention programs. I'm saying that the monitoring assists because we have seen, these programs being implemented in, across the provinces, and we still have to ensure that, after some time, we also conduct an evaluation study that will, inform us as to whether what we are doing is making an impact, in the lives of the communities. One of the critical programs that we are implementing is the providing under HIV and AIDS. We are providing core packages of services, to 60% of OVCY in G2G districts, knowing for them to know their status. And we know that it is important that when people are tested HIV positives, they need to have good nutrition, they need to have support. So this program is meant, to ensure that we support those people so that they become virally suppressed, and also render the psychosocial support. So there is quite a range of services that we are rendering, and we have seen, quite, a difference, in the lives of the children that we have been supporting in this program. DJ, I think, and the last one that is very critical, it's about the international treaties. You can see that we've got one target that talks to the state party report. We have to comply, and I think we have done very well in this area. And it also assists us in terms of, improving the positive image of our country when coming to issues of international matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go, okay, so Kenny's here. Let's deal with services to persons with disabilities, Kenny.
Thank you very much, DJ. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and Minister and colleagues. We have a target for services to persons with disabilities. We are targeted to capacitate 2 provinces on the implementation of the respite care guidelines for children living with disability. In terms of the achievement, we capacitated and empowered parents and NGOs, and we facilitated training in Mpumalanga as well as Northern Cape. The next target is draft user specification on community-based system for personal assistance to persons independent living within community for persons with disabilities. This is actually a database where information around the disability, especially for children, where even other government departments can be able to have access to a database for the services. In terms of the achievement, the service specifications on the development of a community-based system for personal assistance to support independent living within community. So this was actually drafted, and we will also be able to achieve the annual target as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kenny. Let's go to program 5.
Thank you very much, DG, and the chairperson, and the minister, and the other honorable members in attendance. I'll be taking you through program 5 that focuses on issues of the poverty alleviation and sustainable livelihoods, mobilization of the people, and the NPO registration and the compliance monitoring. We had 18 targets, and out of 18 targets, 14 were fully achieved, and 4 were not achieved, some were partially, but I think 4 were not achieved in terms of that, which we are aware of. In terms of the delivery, we were in this quarter supposed to develop a report, to produce a report on the state of the people of South Africa. You realize that in the country, we have got status A, but I think from the angle of social development, we are the one that can tell people in terms of what is happening on the ground, in terms of the programs that we provide, and any indications of the ratios and the proportions of the vulnerability that people are suffering on the ground from all the programs I think that have been presented here. So a draft report has been produced, and the report will provide a very good analysis of the people of South Africa and bridge the gap between the economy and the social issues. And also, this also provides us with a clear picture. One of the important issues about this report is that when you go to issues like budgets, vote, and others, we will be able to tell you or map out where these people are and what are the impact of the programs on those people. The second program is on the issues of sustainable livelihood and security. We continue to provide food to the vulnerable people in all 9 provinces. We have increased our CNBCs from the 235 to 285 in areas, and we will increase further following the COVID that we have. We also have provided some assessment or the evaluation of the implementation of this program, so that we will have a feel on where do we need to improve in different areas. And for this quarter, and the reports have been submitted and has been compiled and produced. We also conducted field work on the design implementation of the sustainable livelihood programs. We realized that after implemented a program for a period of 3 years, there's a need for review to add new things that need to be added, and that has been implemented. Next slide is the next slide. On the community development practice and community mobilization, the policy has been finalized and presented to the cluster, and we are busy now, I think, sending that to cabinet for consideration. We all train community development practitioners who, in this program, the cadre that implement the programs are community development practitioners that are appointed in all 9 provinces. So 426 of those were trained in the methodologies so that they are able to discharge their responsibility appropriately. We also implemented the community mobilization and empowerment framework that has been finalized and has been consulted and been capacitated in 7 districts. You will realize this year, our plan was we go down from district from province to district. And this is also in line to ensure that the districts take the DDM approach when they implement the mobilization program. This program is a very key program in government because it provides capacities to the communities. It also is part of the prevention program that the department implement. And it's also the program that also can be used for many other issues. Moral rehabilitation, consultation with the stakeholders, and ensuring and informing communities on what they're supposed to do. Next slide. On youth development, we had a policy that has been approved, and we are implementing the policy. So one of the things that we need to do is to monitor the implementation of the policy. One of the important things that need to happen at a national level is to have a feel on when we say we have got this policy and to what extent is this policy implementing, so that when we do our impact assessment or impact studies, we'll be able to come up with what impactful is the policy that we have implemented. That has been achieved for this quarter. The NPOs, next slide, I think it's slide for me. The honorable members, you will realize that we sitting here and rendering service as a national department. That service is for the registering of the NPOs and also monitor their compliances in terms of the NPO Act. So in doing that, we have registered, we measure ourselves in terms of the number of those applications that must be processed in time so that people should not wait too long. We also measure the number of submissions of the reports from the NPOs so that we can give them compliance letters that they're compliant. And in terms of our target, we ought to do 98% and 80% on the submission. So this is the driving force for us to deal with. We have achieved that. Several times we always provide you a graph. I think for annual report, we'll give you a graph on a table that says in this district, in this province, how many NPOs have been. And you also realize that we also did a lot of the stakeholder capacity building. We've got a major role to play in capacitating newly registered NPOs. And our role is to ensure that we have developed a new model, which is of capacitating the NPOs, which is a mentorship model. 1:10 or 1:20. The well-to-do NPOs will be charged to train the newly registered NPOs. Then we have been, we will be implementing them from next year. And this is something that is fascinating, and we'll be able to report to this committee in terms of how it's going. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Peter. So we're on the last leg now of the presentation, which deals with the financial performance, and Fanny will take us through that. Thanks.
Thanks, DG. So in terms of Q3,
for this financial year. This is actually the quarter where we fear the most as departments, because this is where Treasury review our financial performance for the first 2 quarters of the financial year. And we were not spared in terms of our adjusted budget for this financial year. So I will come to the slides where they actually taken money from us for this financial year. So for comparison, for quarter 3 between the 21-22 and 22-23 financial year, we actually lower in terms of spending 73 versus 71 for this financial year. And I'll come to the various reasons of this lower spending for the prior financial year. So on quarterly basis, you could see that we've started very low on 54 billion, then picked up to 60 billion and then 64 billion if you look at our quarterly spending. Now the next slide is the one where I will explain in brief what actually transpired in our adjusted estimates for this financial year. There you can see the column minus 5.4 billion that was taken from our budget for this financial year. I'll explain on the 3 various areas. One is our COE, and the second one is on transfers, and then the last one is financial assets. So the next slide actually explains what happened. So we did receive an additional funding of 15.5 million for our COE. That is related to the cost of living, the 3%. That was annual increases for all the various levels. That is across the board for all departments. They received in terms of the cost of living allocated to the various allocations. Then the big chunk that was taken from us is actually the amount of 1.7 billion that went back to the revenue fund because of the slow uptake of our 350 grant. And when we looked at the previous slides, the 54 and the 60 billion that we actually paid in the quarter 1 and quarter 2, remember the allocation that we received for the SRP 350 for this financial year was 44 billion rand, which made provision for 10 million applicants per month. Now, because of the revised income threshold, the means test, the number of applicants that we actually did since April was about 7 million applicants. So the 6 billion declared saving is actually then a accumulative amounts from April up until September. So on average, we saved about 1 billion rand per month because we couldn't reach the 10 million target applicants per month. So then Treasury decided, and we fought with Treasury to say, can't we then repurpose this funding either to change the threshold of the means test or increase the amount of 350 to the beneficiaries, but that required a different process in terms of regulations, and then Treasury decided to take the 6 billion away. So one part of it, as I said, the 1.7 went back to the revenue, and then they repurposed the balance of the 6 billion to 2 departments. One, if you see at the bottom, 755 million went to the Department of Defence. That was because of the extended deployment of the South African Development Community Mission in Mozambique. And the other amount of 2.9 billion went to public enterprise to repair infrastructure damage caused by the KZN floods in April 2022. Then the last amount that was approved by Treasury is that our debtors book is actually growing, and then that all that we management could do to recover some of the debt. But this amount of 538 million was actually then approved by National Treasury to be written off in this financial year to reduce our debt book. So that is just in short what happened in the adjusted estimates for this financial year to the department. Next slide is just again a comparison between our operational spending between prior and this year. There's actually an increase. 80% versus 68%. The next one just gives you a comparison between the various programs. You can see program 1 administration is already at 95%. So let me get to the reasons for the spending for the various programs. So we can continue up to slide 53. So administration, we're already sitting for Q3 at 105%. Now, we had engagements between Treasury and SASSA. You all recall that we are paying currently for the Telkom, the toll-free number. This amount is about 6 million per month. And by Q3, we were already sitting at an amount of about 60 million that we've paid since April. We have been engaging SASSA to ask them to reimburse us for this expenditure since April. But they were of a different view because they didn't. So they said they had no legal obligation towards us. Then we went to the National Treasury to say, can't we rather than shift this money from SASSA to our department? And then they've agreed to that. And there's now a special adjusted estimate that will be tabled in this month where we actually shift the amount of 83 million from SASSA administration to the department so that we can pay for the Telkom invoice up until end of March. So we're waiting for that to be approved. Then on social security policy, there's only 25% spending on goods and services, and that is again because of the delays that we're currently having on the implementation of the inspectorate. For welfare services, on 75%, that's well within the reach of the average spending for this specific line function. They've just signed a new contract for GBV, so they some of the expenditure will increase. Then for social policy, 76%, again, that's within the allowed spending percentage, but it also relates, some of the prior expenditure relates to the presidential social sector summit and the system enhancements that has been done in this specific line function. Chair, just the last slide just gives you a comparison on what is our major spending items. There you can see the bar for communication is sitting at 70 million. That's because of the Telkom, and then we've also increased our footprint within provinces. There's some traveling and subsistence, 64 million. Then just in terms of recommendation, we want the committee to note the performance of the department for the third quarter, and also what have we done to ensure that department stay with the allocated budget. Thanks.
Okay, I think, Chair, that brings us to the end of the presentation. And we will then ready to take questions. I think if there are some questions that may overlap into the work of the agencies, they're here in the meeting to also address some of those challenges. And we'll then be able to take those forward accordingly. But thank you for lending us an ear to this important piece of work. And we will then seek additional guidance from your good selves and hear your inputs accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting DG. Now, what we do is that we give over to the honorable members to interact with the presentation. Thanks ever so much. Honorable members. Honorable Diham.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all my colleagues, the departmental officials, the minister, deputy minister, and all stakeholders in the platform. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Honorable Chairperson. I've got just, I think, 2 or 3 issues that I want to raise for the department for clarity seeking. But before I do that, I would like to congratulate the department for having achieved or having been conferred the ISA Good Practice Award for Africa 2023. It's a milestone worth being achieved and being celebrated. Thank you very much for making us proud, Team SOCDEV, for your achievement, for keeping the flag of the Department of Social Development and of the country high at the level of Africa. We really appreciate it because I'm of the view that small as this achievement might have been, we also need to celebrate it because we must not be found as only complaining in the areas of our oversight responsibility, where we are normally taking the department hard in the areas where we feel they are not doing the work properly or they have not achieved what they actually promised us as members of parliament, members of the portfolio committee, in the areas of their responsibility. Thank you very much for that, Honorable Chairperson. I just want to raise the following issues on program number 1. And I think the Honorable Minister also raised this thing in her opening remarks when she was doing some political remarks to the portfolio committee in terms of the underspending with regards to program number 1, which deals with the administration. The high underspending was incurred. The Honorable Minister also indicated it was for telecommunications and for the toll-free line, for the special COVID-19 SRD grant. And I just want to raise it as a concern because I know, Honorable Chairperson, that even in the our last interaction when we were dealing with the department with regards to, their performance with regard to spending on for the second quarter, this issue has been coming on for a very long time. And I think it's also one of the issues that they've been actually highlighted by the Auditor General. When we interacted with the Auditor General, this is an issue that has been coming from time to time. It's a recurring issue, if I need to put it that way. So I would like to know from the department, what is it in terms of or the systems that they've put in place to ensure that in the next financial, the financial quarter, this issue will not find itself coming again here. And then we having to be given a responsibility or an explanation that no, due to COVID, this is what happened. We couldn't spend, we underspend here and there and all of that. So it will be important for us as members of the portfolio committee, if the department can just say, no, in terms of our action plan, this is how we want to deal with this issue. And with regard to program number 2, program number 3, as well as program number 4, I see there, I've noted that the spending of the department ranges between 70% up to 74%, which according to me, is actually not bad, but it will be important for the department to take us through in terms of the areas or the underspending targets, which in the areas where they've actually promised us that they'll be able to achieve the targets. What are the reasons that actually led to them for not having achieved the targets? I would also like to, in terms of program 5, the program spelled almost about 90%, which is a good thing. It's only 10% or less, about 9.9%, which has not been achieved with regard to program number 5, which is also a good thing. But it will be important for the department to take us through in the areas where they have not performed, where they have not achieved their targets. What are the reasons? And in most particularly in the areas where the issues are recurring and they are also being picked up by the Auditor General, what are they planning to correct those things to ensure that they don't actually occur in the future? Thank you very much. That's my submission, Honorable Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dekgang. Honorable Abrams, followed by Honorable Manganyi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good morning to all the colleagues on the platforms, the officials on the platforms and the stakeholders on the platforms. Chairperson, my inputs and questions are as follows. Chairperson, you touched on, and maybe this is something you can answer, after the department gives a report back. But you touched on, you spoke to legacy in your opening remarks and the legacy of the committee. And I would just like to find out, what is the status on the committee bill that we were supposed to achieve when it comes to the children's amendment bill and the content that we never got to in the first round. Chairperson, if the department can just clarify on slide 11, if I heard correctly, that the roundtable discussions with donors in the private sector, that the private sector will now be assisting with placing social workers in schools. Chairperson, with reference to the monitoring and evaluation, in particular with the social welfare index, while this is welcome, Chairperson, It's important to note that this is something the committee has always spoken about since the very, first day in 2019, when we had Honorable Gumgubele as a chairperson, that we spoke about we need to be able to measure impact. And although 4 years later, that's still in development plan, I hope that it's something that can be concluded before this term rises. Then Chairperson and the ADG will know I harp on a lot about the department's website, and that the website is a place where people go to look at what is happening, what programs they can access. And, when you click the tab programs on the department's website, it doesn't tell you anything, what programs there are. And if I was a young person or a parent, and I'd like to know what youth programs there are, because we see it in our presentation. But if I go to the department's website, there's nothing there that tells me what is available to me as a young person, as a parent, that I can access in terms of programs from the department. So again, I have an issue with the department's website. Then Chairperson, I'd also like to know the status of the permanent fill-in of the Director General position, as well as the DDG position on social welfare. And I'd also like to know if it's possible that the department can maybe send the committee an organogram of what head office is looking like, and maybe what the provincial offices are looking like, because there were quite a few new names being called and new people that were presenting today. And I think it's always good that we know who's at head office and running the programs and so forth. Then Chairperson, I'll leave all my the questions on integrating the children's grant beneficiaries with government service to next week, because I see it is on our agenda for next week. And then just to go to slide 48, which for me is the most concerning slide of them all. If the department can just confirm, what was that breakdown of cost of living increases per salary level? So what did officials or the cost, the COE, compensation of employees, sorry, what was the percentage per salary level? And, the CFO did mention when it came to this Telkom line, he spoke to a 60 million, then he spoke to an 83 million, and then on the one graph it spoke to a 70 million. So if the CFO can please just break that down, what exactly is the amounts when it comes to this Telkom line? Is it 60 million? Is it 83? Or is it the 70 million that was presented in the slide? Also, Chairperson, if the CFO can inform us what the value
Excuse me, Alex, it must be the last one. We must be cautious of time. Carry
yes,
on.
Chairperson, but I see there's only another person after me and it's 22:11.
Okay, but
So
there might be
I'll
others
ask
that will come. It's fine for
I'll
that
ask
one. Yes.
So what
Continue.
was the value of the new grant for the GBV Command Center, and with who? And then Chairperson, the targets that are set on the department's APP don't correspond with the targets that are presented. There are a few targets short in what is on their APP. So why are some targets not reflected in this presentation, yet it appears on the APP? And also, Chairperson, what were the delays when it came to the SANCA, the African National AIDS Council transfer payment? Why was it not paid? Is it correct to say that that money was reprioritized for something else? And if so, what was the SANCA transfer payment reprioritized for? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Alex. The next one is Honorable Manganyi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Also echo what my colleagues have said to thank the department about their presentation. Chair, I want to talk more about this, the one that's policy on program number 3. I'm just asking the department, don't they think that this social assistance, why is not growing? It's not because of the appeals that they've been declined time and again, specifically for those people that they have mentioned up to 59 years. Don't they think is the one that is making it to drop? And then I want to check more about the child and family capacity building. I understand it have started in Mpumalanga. I forget the other province. I want to know, did it make impact? If it did make an impact, in which district? Because why I'm asking this question is because the ills are growing every day. I don't see whereby we have chipped in as the department and said that this program is the one that have assisted us so that these ills can drop. We talk about the crime, especially from the youth level, and this prevention of substance abuse, I think is growing almost every day. Maybe in future we need to be told who are those who are championing it at the level of the district and the zone, because it can't happen at the province. It happen on the ground. The ground is the district, and maybe we can assist each other so that when we go down to the provinces, we must check thoroughly what happened. And then the issue of older person. Why is the department always, when they come up with something, it takes long time to can pass or to can go to cabinet for approval? Don't you think this issue of delaying with something not after you have dealt with it, you don't take it to the cabinet, you take it in a short time? And then this, I want to say, this is the one that have made us the whole since our inauguration to this department, we have been dealing with something that's supposed to be dealt with on the 5th administration. So don't you think we are going to give a burden again to those who will be coming on the 7th administration? And then the other one, Chair, I want to echo or commend the department when they said they will go and make sure that they capacitated also the NPO. Those who are capacitated, we must know, because in some of the municipality or district, we don't have NPO. Those who the department knows, they must tell us where are they, so that this lower spending must not occur time and again, because it's the one that is making people on the ground to always say, we don't see you social development, we don't see you there and there. It is because some of our things we are doing not informing most of the community. I don't know how do you choose to this, how do you choose community development practitioner? Because in future or next meeting, I wanted the department to tell us, in this province, we have recruited so much a community development practitioner that will be dealing with that province alone. So that we must know in which province we didn't have this community development practitioner. Because if they are not in all the provinces, we will always come to the meeting and derail the meeting by crying, saying, we don't see this, we don't see this. What we want is to see the department achieving. When the department achieving, it means we are really doing our work properly. So I urge the department to make sure that they must also monitor the provinces if they are really assisting in all these policies that we have already passed. And then we come rushing, doing the policy. When we're supposed to take it to the final, we stuck. And then this policy, they stuck from that 5th, now is the 6th. So let's make sure that we make sure that at least some of them it see the light, not everybody packing what use of making many policies that we don't pass. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mamingani. I don't see any hand for now, but let's rather give to the department to have
Chairperson.
time.
Chairperson.
Who's
My
that?
hand is up.
Yes, I don't
As
see
Paul
your
Nimere.
hand.
Yes, my hand is up.
Okay.
Chair, there are 2 hands. Is
Followed
Mare
by
and Member
Bridget.
Masango.
Over
Thank
to
you so
you,
much,
Pauline.
Chairperson. Thank you. Good morning, Chairperson, and all my colleagues. I just want to apologize for logging in late. I just wanted to say I agree with Mayor Jane, what was just speaking now, and all my other colleagues. You know what, Chairperson, this morning, 6 o'clock in my street, an old lady was on her way to work. She was robbed and stabbed. They took a bag and everything. You know, the substance abuse is so huge in our communities. The street next to my street is something like 4 drug houses. And the concern that I'm having is that a lot of MPOs are being cut. And these MPOs were giving us a excellent service when it comes to all these things of drug abuse and looking after older people and children with disabilities. So I am just worried about these cuts that we are having. How is it going to impact? And then the other thing I want to say, Chairperson, is that all people go to social development to get a grant when they are sick. I was last week on Thursday. I was at an office. I took a lady with a very sick baby because the doctor said the baby must get, there was more than 100 people there, but only 10 people was said, no, they qualified to get a grant. What about those people where the doctor, the hospital was saying that this person is not able to work anymore? But when it comes to the SASSA doctor, he don't look at the people, he don't examine the people. And then his question when I asked him, but why are you denying these people to be qualified? He said to me, if they don't come here with their tablets, I will not, then they are not sick. I mean, how can you say things like that? We're sitting with a problem where people that is healthy are getting grants, but people that are really sick, they cannot work anymore. They don't get the grants. How are we going to make sure that these things are being done correctly? Social development is the biggest department of all the departments, because everything comes to social development. But we cannot see impact. It's true what Ms. Jane was saying. We are passing these things, but it never comes through. You know, we are talking about these older persons things, but it never comes through. It's taking their time. You see, it was there since 2015 and 2008 and all these things, but it doesn't come through. So it is always nice to be on paper, like I always say. It's nice on the slides, it's nice on the paper, but in reality, there's nothing going on the floor, on the ground floor. People don't feel social development the way they're supposed to feel social development. People are upset about how things are happening in social developments. Social workers are unhappy, staff are unhappy the way they are working and the conditions they are working in. But we are talking every week. We have slides after slides, but nothing is really happening. So that is a very big concern. We are supposed to do the oversight, but what is our role as members of parliament if we can't even get the smallest thing to go through? That is just one of my biggest concerns, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Honorable Masango, thank you, Honorable Marie.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the department for the presentations. Chairperson, my question is more general than to be on any of the presentations that have been done this morning, and also because the system was just kicking me in and out. So I might have missed some parts of the presentation. Chairperson, my problem is coming out of a sort of appreciation that I need to give to the department, in that I have been recently having a whole lot of problems coming from various sectors of society, but they were all social development related problems that I then would escalate to the acting DG. I would escalate them to the senior management at SASSA, and I would get almost instant response and help and resolution of those problems. And my thinking then, Chair, was that we have been saying that SASSA offices, the department, of the department's offices are not accessible to the people that need the help. We have the luxury of sitting in this committee meeting and have presentations made. We have direct access. We've been given direct access to even the minister and the senior officials of the department and its entity. But the people who actually need this help say they can't get through to SASSA. And Chairperson, I would like to even say that there are so many changes that are taking place as far as SASSA is concerned, with all the changes that are taking place, with the cards that are being renewed, with the changing over from SAPO to Postbank, and all these changes that are affecting their daily sort of connection with the social assistance program. And these people are all saying without fail, and the likes of Mr. Van Friede and the team that he works with will tell you that without fail, they say, I can't get hold of SASSA. The phones are not answered. The emails are not responded to. When I go to the offices, half the time the offices are offline, and so on and so forth. And I'm saying, let us limit the number of queries that we are escalating through the ways that I've just explained, and make offices accessible to the people, because it means that these things can be done, because not one of the queries that have escalated has not been sorted, which means that there are systems at SASSA where these things can be sorted. So have people have access to you, so that you do not have me sending you emails at midnight about something that could actually be sorted. These people are going to SASSA offices and the department's offices, and they do not even have to take money that they do not have to take transport to go to offices that will not assist them anyway because they are offline half the time. So that is my appeal today. The reason why I'm saying it's at the back of a serious and profuse appreciation to the services that one gets when one gets in touch with the department and entities in terms of us of resolving the issues that we escalate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Masango. I don't think there is any other hand.
Chairperson, sorry, it's Honorable Aris. I experienced extremely poor network, but however, Chairperson, there's just one issue that I want to raise with the department, and that is in terms of the way of their presentations. Because, Chairperson, what I have noted in their presentations is that the way they are presenting to us and the way they try to manipulate the statistics that they present to us in terms of the graphs, they must stop it. The graphs that they present to the portfolio must be readable. If you look at that graph, for example, on page 4, on slide 4, even though the information is that they did write it on top, they must not come with graphs that try where they try to hide information from us. Chairperson, the other thing that I want to speak on is in terms of drug rehabilitation. It is really saddened that the NPOs are really struggling in the country and there's no real support from the department. As previous speakers was alluded to the fact that these NPOs are doing crucial work. It's actually an extension of the work that the Department of Social Development is doing. Then the other thing that I would like to touch on is in terms of people living with disability. I think that the department are not doing enough to ensure that people feel included into our communities. Then the other thing is in terms of that target that was not reached of 300 and only 255 people in development programs, the department really need to up the game. I mean, if you look at the unemployment statistics in the country, it's extremely high. And yet we need to get an exit strategy on how we are going to get our people off the 350 SRD grants. Right now, there's millions of young people. And I mean, I was reading it again last night, that 760,000 graduate students that are receiving SRD grants. I want to see the interventions that the department are doing with other departments to get an exit strategy for our people, for specifically our young people, to get out of the social assistance program. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Aris. Let's also, I don't see any other hand. Lindy, is there any other hand? I think that's all. Can we then give over? Hello?
Chair, there's no other hand, but there is a message with a question from Honorable Abrams. I don't know whether the department has picked up that question or must I read it? Just one question.
Okay, it has been sent to the gadget. Let's not repeat. Remember, we have to be very cautious about time also and give the department time to. I can see that it's on the chat. Department, thank you, Lindy. Department, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. And thank you very much to the honorable members for the questions asked. What I will do, Chair, is then ask my colleagues to prepare responses now. And I'd like to start with Peter around the concerns raised by members around NPOs, the reduction of NPOs, the visibility of NPOs in various places where communities may not know that NPOs who render service XYZ are available. How do we address that matter? The non-payment of NPOs, there's been concern raised around that. And NPO has been cut in terms of budget. So Peter, if you could start, and then immediately after Peter will take Tabani, and Tabani will deal with the issues around the welfare index, the approach that we utilize in the presentations, and some aspects of MNE where possible. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks very much, Acting DG, and thanks to the questions from the honourable members. Yeah, in terms of the NPOs, we agree and accept that. I think they are the extension of our the department in relevant services. We are also as a department, we're getting worried in terms of the late subsidies that are paid to NPOs. But I think this financial year we are doing very well because we have intervened in different provinces, just a few, in few provinces where some NPOs do not submit reports in time or are not aware of things that they need to submit to be paid. We were standing in the last quarter at about 98.8% of the payments in all nine provinces. We also have, as you're aware, we reported this last time, we developed an NPO payment system that will make it easy for NPOs to be paid in time. It will remind NPOs when to send the report, and it will remind officials to click the button so that they could be paid. And there's other due diligence are done in time. But since we have started, we have seen a lot of improvement in different areas. Where you find some NPOs having some challenges, like in Gauteng, it was on the basis that they did call for proposal recently. So to begin the payments, there's a lot of issues that we experience. Some of the issues is that those I think that are doing residential areas, the bylaws when they change, they are going to be impact in terms of those NPOs to get accreditation or approval in terms of that. And it's something that we are working on. On the issue of, there was a question on the visibility of NPOs. Here at National, we are sitting with a database that indicate where, when an NPO register, we can see where it comes from. And we are able to direct newly registered NPOs in different areas to be capacitated so that they are able to deal with that. But I think I will agree with Memangani. In other areas, some time back we had a challenge where when we look at the number of NPOs, we find that they're coming from towns. They come from towns instead of coming from the areas. So one of the things that the department does through community development is to motivate the communities to register NPOs in those areas that are in need, so that when funding comes, they are funded from the areas where the services need to be rendered, not to fish people from city center to other areas. But it's something that we are working on, and it's something that we are looking at doing. The issue of the cut of budgets by Treasury, we have made some recommendation to Treasury so that they should not cut budget for the NPOs as it impact on the service delivery. We have seen some in other areas where there's a cut, but the approach that we are advising province to do is to ensure that we focus on the priority programs that are supposed to be rendered so that we can fund those and ensure that we target most in most areas where there are social ills, like the 30 district where there's a high level of the GBV, areas where there's a lot of prevention services for substance abuse and others. I think this is a work in progress, and there's still a lot of work to be done by all of us and by all even other government officials, including honorable members, so that we can assist to make sure that services are rendered to those that I need. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think I just have to respond to two issues. The first issue was regarding the issues of the social development or the social welfare index. As I did indicate earlier, one of the things that we have learned and being pushed by this portfolio committee to do is about beyond talking about what you have achieved. We need to start talking about what is it that you have changed. For doing these things that we say having achieved 84%, what has changed? It is for that reason, having listened to the portfolio committee, that we started undertaking this assignment of coming up with the social development index, which, if I were to just say it again, what we are trying to do here is to say, how can we use this tool to provide that with a summary measure on the average achievement of the key dimensions of what we need to do as a department. The United Nations, when they look at countries, it uses what is called the Human Development Index, where it talks about many issues, illiteracy rates, the mortality rate, and many others. I even made an example that unlike our sister department, such as health, when they talk about the under 5 mortality, the fact that there are less children who die below before they reach 5, it tells a whole story about the well-being in terms of health outcomes of children. It means these children are not suffering from malnutrition, are not suffering from stuntiness, and it means you are already investing well as government to the well-being of these children as they grow older. When you talk about education, the low, the illiteracy rate, it tells you more that that government has invested more on what we call human development, human capital development, because these children will grow, remain school and work and contribute back when they work in terms of tax and the growth of economy. So this social development as well, we are working towards that. It takes time because it's not something that has been easily done, and we are working towards it. But across that, we've got also an electronic M&E that tracks every single work and pieces of programs that we are doing, which is electronic, and we understand and appreciate that is not something that is done when we're sitting in these air-conditioned offices, but we need to go down to where the service is being provided and delivered, where information is captured, and most of the areas we know is still paper-based, and there's quite a lot that we need to do for us to convert to that level and get into a space where this is digitized. The last aspect, the information for us is not about to say we have done this or not and take the numbers or have a space to fabricate them. In terms of the framework for strategic plan and so all this work that you are doing get to be audited by the AGSA. The information that you are presenting here, we've been measured in terms of the correctness as well as the usefulness of our information. So before we finalize this report and submit it to the minister and to the DPME, it's been quality checked according to those standards. And so this is accurate. We also, each and every unit provides what is called a portfolio of evidence. If you say you're going to conduct training, we want to make sure that you provide us with an accurate register of every person that is attended. If you say you're going to provide training over 5 days and someone attends the training over 3 days, you have not fully met that target because they did not attend the full duration of the training. So that's how accurate and detailed this process, and it becomes much more technical. DG at some point did try and explain this thing that you just don't can say, no, I've achieved this or not, because there's a serious and thorough rigorous process through which that is being done and it's audited. I did mention that this is submitted to DPME every end of the quarter, and also the internal audit as well within the department where it does for the annual reports. and media, they also go to the AGSA. I just need to clarify that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tabani, for that. Let me ask now Fanny to come in and focus on questions pertaining to the telecom issues, as well as the SANAC. Okay, and then, yeah, let's go, Fanny.
Thanks, DG. So the clarity just in terms of the telecom, on slide 54, the amount there shows 70 million, but that includes the 60 million that we've already paid to telecom. Remember, the department's got other operational communication things to be paid, like its own landline, like the reimbursement of cell phones and data cards and those type of things. So the 60 million is for telecom for the end of December. The 83 is actually the full year cost because we made an obligation to fulfill our contract with Telkom. And we, as I say, we're paying between 6 and 7 million per month for this specific toll-free line. So that's where the cumulative amount of 83 comes to, that we are going to get back from SASSA for this financial year. In terms of the SANEC, remember we've got due diligence and compliance requirements that we had to do. Our team went out to SANEC offices to ensure that there's site visits, there's due diligence in terms of the money that we've already transferred to the prior financial year. So we've done that in the third quarter. SANEC hasn't utilized the full allocation that we paid to them in the prior financial year. However, we are in the final stages of paying the amount that it's for them for this financial year, the 15 million, which will be paid in March for this financial year to SANEC, because there was a revision in the business plans and those type of things, which all the process has now been finalized. So we will proceed with the payment of SANEC before the end of March 2023. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Fanny. I'm going to ask Isabella, and then we'll come to Kumbula afterwards. Isabella, big concerns around substance abuse. If you could address that challenge.
Yeah, thank you very much, ATG. I think we really appreciate the concern, and as the department, we are all as equally concerned about the escalating of the substance abuse, but not only substance abuse, but also other social ills, irrespective of the implementation of the programs that we're having. I think we have realized that I think we really need to invest, in the priorities so that we can be able to respond to the issues that are affecting people on the ground, and maybe also increase or upscale our programs and our efforts, in terms of dealing with this issue. However, having said that, we want to believe that we are moving in the right direction, because we want to believe that we don't just have to be responsive, but we need to be proactive. And the implementation of your social and behavior change programs, for me, is the step in the right direction. And we realize that even though, as I said earlier, we are in all the districts, but we are not in all communities. And that in itself, it says that I will not be able, to win the battle if we don't ensure that we upscale our interventions and our efforts. And that itself, it says that it has got resource implications. So we are working together with our international donors, to ensure that, we try and gradually reach, to each and every community. But also, I think the issue of social behavioral change, there are some other initiatives, and I'm glad to say that we have seen commitment from our political principals who are leading, these issues of social behavioral change, because we want to believe that if we start early with boys and with families, also ensuring that we really strengthen our families, and we start with boy children, and we also start with fathers or men, will be able, to overcome this. So we've got our political leaders who are leading different programs in ensuring that we really strengthen our prevention method in terms of this. But with regard to the response also, we appreciate the fact that it is very important that we should work with our NPOs because as Peter has said, they are our extension of delivery in dealing with this issue. So we working towards strengthening the collaboration, but it has got also resource implication because we need to ensure that, you know, whatever we are doing, we maximize the limited resources that we are having, but at the same time, we achieve the maximum impact. But we think that, you know, the issue of substance abuse also, I don't know, just on a lighter note, it somehow should also be declared, you know, a pandemic, you know, within the country. Thank you.
No, thanks, Isabella. So I'm gonna ask Kumbula to respond to two issues around the gender-based violence command center and the issue relating to the website. I think the concern by members is that when they look for information, they ought to find it on the website. So it's disseminated to the relevant recipients who may need it at the time. So if you could address those two issues, please.
Thank you very much, DG, Chairperson and honorable members. Let me start with the gender-based violence command center. In November last year, we procured the services of Brilliantel to provide an end-to-end solution to respond to victims of gender-based violence and femicide. This is a 24-hour service. It's a call system. It integrates with the police, and of course, this process is work in progress. The services have been procured for a period of 36 months, and there are milestones that they have to achieve within that 36 months. And of course, they get assessed on a regular basis. We get feedback and reports on the work that they are doing. But we are quite satisfied with the work that they are doing so far. And there could be limitations here and there, but these are managed by the managers who are actually dealing with the actual program. So I don't think that there are major concerns in this area. With regards to the website, firstly, let me accept the positive criticism that it is not reflecting correctly on the departmental programs, and this is something that we need to improve on. We've put the website issue on tender precisely for the same reason. In the previous cycle, we had done so, and the tender that we received came out at a very, very high cost, way beyond what we had budgeted for, and we decided to discontinue the process. It is currently part of our new procurement plan, and this is our priority issue, and we will attend to it. Perhaps just as I have the platform, I'll just respond to the issue of the persons with disabilities. Currently, we have 1.7% of persons with disabilities who are employed in the department. In 2019, we were sitting at 2% of persons with disabilities before the migration of the unit to the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. Let me just add at this point that there is a difference of view between DPSA and DPME in terms of the figure that we need to, the targeted figure. DPSA is giving us an instruction that we should meet 2%, whilst DPME is actually at 6%, and there has to be alignment between the two departments. Thank you very much.
No, thanks. Kumbula. Okay. No, thank you. Thank you very much. Kumbula, I want to ask Anthony to deal with the issues on social security, but I would like for Maureen to address the issue of exit strategy on grants, and then we'll then move forward.
Okay, thank you so much, DG. Maureen will come to add, but let me start, DG, with the issue about concerns about qualifying for grants. I think we need to remember that all the grants that we have, they have specific eligibility criteria. So that is very important to underline. Specific criteria has to be met for one to qualify for a specific grant that one will be applying for. I thought we need to underline that. There is a comment that was on the chat box about the shifting of the means test. I think it was alluded to in the earlier remarks that that was to improve the reach of the for the applicants because the means test was initially set at a very low level. So the adjustment to the means test was to ensure that the targeted numbers could be reached. So I think that is important. On the issue of the exit strategy, of course, we do appreciate the need to have this one, and my colleague will come in to add. DG, you will recall that one of our observations from the recipients, we do have those with matric and others with tertiary qualification. So I think in terms of interventions, we need to think along the lines of skills development, job creation issues, and also the extreme circumstances in which some of the applicants would indicate that they don't have any kind of qualification. So it is in that mix that our interventions needs to be complementary and cognizant of the characteristics of the people within that database. So I would like to stop here for now and allow my colleague Maureen to come in on that point. Over, Maureen.
Thank you, Mr. Makwaramite, Chair. I just want to add on what Anthony has just said, indicating that indeed when we changed the means test threshold, remember we changed the means test threshold in our regulation that we published in 2021, moving it from 350 to 624, which at the time was the food poverty line. We saw an increase in uptake of the COVID SRD, where at that time we were having about 5 million beneficiaries, but now at our peak around December, we saw ourselves November having beneficiaries around 8 million, and currently we have about 7.8 million beneficiaries receiving the provision. So by changing the threshold, it had a positive impact on our uptake of the COVID SRD. So that was a positive move on our side. And in terms of the exit strategy, it is critical to indicate that we have already started a work around ensuring that our beneficiaries are linked to job opportunities. However, this responsibility needs to be, collaboration in this regard needs to be strengthened, because to link beneficiaries to job opportunities requires all other departments that will assist us in ensuring that our beneficiaries can be absorbed in the active labor market. However, we need to emphasize to the committee that the COVID SRD provision, the intent mainly is to ensure that our beneficiaries, their basic needs are met, not necessarily that we use the provision to link beneficiaries to employment. The key mandate of the provision is to ensure that our the basic needs of our beneficiaries are met. And our studies have indicated that the grant is used mostly to meet the basic needs, which is food, as well as other services such as electricity. However, as a department, we realize that the majority of these beneficiaries are young. Some of them are in the work age, or all of them are in the work age group. So it's critical for us to link them. We'll continue to strengthen collaboration. And that is why we are working hard to finalize the policy on basic income support, because the key component of that policy is to ensure that our beneficiaries are linked with active labor market. We are planning to proceed with taking this particular policy to other levels of government in the next financial year. And it will assist us by really this policy being adopted as a policy. It will assist us in really ensuring that strategies work, so that it's not only the responsibility of DSD, but other departments are also come on board in assisting both DSD and SASSA to ensure that these beneficiaries are linked to employment. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Let's have the last comment by Rogers with regards to, and maybe Kumbula may want to come in as well, the engagement with civil society, private sector in terms of stakeholder relations, and what a private sector is saying about absorbing social service professions.
No, thanks, DG. And maybe just to also thank the honorable member for asking the question. The roundtable discussion that we had in December was basically first in the series of conversations that we are going to be having with the private sector in general. The next one would be meeting with the CEOs and heads of business schools, trying to, enter into the discussion where we have noted, a shift from, shareholder reason to stakeholder reason. And we're basically trying to play into that space and making a plea to corporate to say that you can play a meaningful role in contributing to your own communities. So in our discussions, we really pitched the idea of corporates adopting schools within areas where they actually operate, because we know that business have impacts on human rights and social issues. Companies like SASO, Investec, Old Mutual, African School, Harmony Gold, they all seem interested in engaging further in this discussion, and we continue to engage in that regard. So I thought I should just contextualize that it's a conversation that is actually going on. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that you should also just highlight the importance of the CSI initiatives that we are trying to drive together with the NDA in addressing the issues of stakeholders. I think we're really just trying to ensure that we have the right stakeholders working with us, that we could leverage off, but also that we could leverage off in terms of possible funding, as well as training, expertise, and other related matters that speak to the context of our work. And of course, seeing the possibilities of those who have the appetite to absorb some social workers in that regard. I'm not sure, Kumbula, do you want to add, or is that sufficient?
Well, I think it is sufficient, suffice to say that besides them funding employment in the government space, one of the key principles that we are conveying to them is that they too are affected by social ills. They are not immune to them, and therefore it is important that they increase the employment of social workers within, or social service professionals within their own space, to provide psychosocial support and various other services that professionals in this area normally provide. Thank you very much.
Okay, no, thanks very much, Kumbula. Let me address a few aspects and maybe embellish a few points on some of the questions asked. Firstly, let me deal with the issue of where we are in terms of the filling of posts. That process is advanced. I think that some of the interviews are actually taking place in the next few days. So that process is advanced. The reason why you would have heard new names is not because they're new people, but it's because one of the things that I decided to do was to make sure that we give others an opportunity to express the context of their work so that they are able to express it in a much more eloquent manner, given that they are the ones responsible on the ground for some of the work that we've put forward. So there is no new posts in that regard. Just to also highlight the issue of cases. For example, one of the members mentions the concern with a particular doctor declining applications. And I think that those cases should really be brought to our attention for resolve so that we're able to address it with immediate effect in the specific municipality, district or province. And then there has been some concerns. I want to respond to the issue of GBV this way and say that sorry, not GBV, substance abuse. I've noted the concern by many members with regard to this particular work. I want to say that you would recall that we have a National Drug Master Plan. Part of the context of the National Drug Master Plan is to ensure that that the CDA itself, in terms of the authority, holds departments accountable, provinces accountable, in terms of implementation of certain aspects entailed within the Drug Master Plan. And I think where we are having a challenge is that there are some provinces and some districts and local municipalities which do not have the action committees, the local and the provincial action committees that ought to be established in terms of the National Drug Master Plan. We've raised this awareness with provinces and made them aware that this has to be done as a matter of principle. In some instances, I know that we've seen an increase of these committees coming up, but in some instances we have not. And we have been on record with provinces highlighting the fact that it's not correct that these committees are not in existence. And I want to just highlight that because provinces and local municipalities are at the coalface of where people are, it is really incumbent upon the provinces to make sure that this happens. By way of oversight at a national level, we do engage with them, even as far as taking it to premiers. We also talk to premiers around ensuring that these are actually actioned and are in existence. So that's very important to address the issues of social behavioral change. I've noted the concern around visibility of NPOs, and Peter did respond. And I think that there is certainly a need, honorable members, to ensure that we provide information to people around the existence of NPOs in those respective areas, be it rural areas or peri-urban areas. I think we must do more to that effect. And I think what we will do, Peter and colleagues, is to make sure that we get provinces to be much more on the ground, highlighting the existence of NPOs, especially in peri-urban and rural areas, so that people have a sense of where to go. I want to just also highlight the fact that there was an issue around the youth targets. I think the explanation that we provided was that we actually overachieved in the quarter prior and because of the technical nature in how targets are meant to be presented per quarter, that target was deemed unachieved, even though we overachieved. And if you balance the numbers, we would have actually met that target and beyond. So I just wanted to give clarity on that. I want to just address the issue of missing targets and the issue of manipulating statistics or hiding things. I just want to assure members that it's not the case. I can guarantee you we are not hiding anything. Where you may see that there are some missing targets, you may see us responding to the impact of targets met much more. It's because some of those targets in those specific programs may have been unmet, and we would have dealt with them first. There are instances where we have one target that embeds two targets in it. You know, I wish I could point it out now, asking the colleagues Nolwazi and Tabani to see if we could find those. But I can guarantee you there is no way that we would hide any targets. As Tabani said, this is audited, we submit this. If we were doing that, I can guarantee you that DPME would have raised this concern with us immediately as we submit our quarterly reports, because they do analyze these in detail. In addition, we report on priority 4 in terms of the work that we've done on our MTSF, and so we take those targets in the MTSF plan and then embed them within our own targets as an organization. So I can guarantee and assure members that there is certainly no manipulation of statistics, no hiding of targets, no missing targets. I think that the reason we provide the graphs is so that it reads a lot easier, you would find that we do explain in detail what is embedded in the graphs. Then I want to quickly address the issue of access, and I think this is a very important issue raised by one of the members. You see, the challenge that we have is that we may not necessarily have an eye in every single district or local office in the country. Because we would rely largely on the provincial departments to ensure that that is available. So that they have an eye on those and that those are operational. We rely purely on the reports, and of course we do go to provinces to engage with provinces around our concerns that we may pick up from the reports and give recommendations. And I think that this is a major concern. You know, non-availability, non-access, non-response is a serious concern. And I must say that we regret that at times, you know, we may not be available, or colleagues may not be available and non-responsive to issues. It's a matter that I will take up with provinces as well when we meet them and make sure that we address this challenge. There are in some cases call center numbers which members can reach us on. And I agree that some members may have the privilege because of the access that you have to us as the national department, but I do think that a sound way of also addressing some of these issues is having provinces with us. I can guarantee you, honorable members, that when I do meet with provinces, the concerns that you raise in these meetings, I do relay them to provinces, and so that we are able to get resolve on those challenges. And so I do think that it will be useful if we do get some provinces as part of some of our meetings where they are able to also respond to some of these particular aspects. Then lastly, I want to just deal with the 3% issue. No, look, this is directed by DPSA to all government departments, and this is in terms of the negotiations that take place at bargaining chambers. And you would note that this is actually the bone of contention with regards to the current public sector wage strike, which is underway, and we have been monitoring that from our side as well, making sure that we have mitigation measures in place. In fact, I met with provinces on Monday to address this very matter, and I can assure you that we've put mitigation measures in place to ensure that we secure the safety of staff as well as safety of clients, and also ensuring that our services are not disrupted in any way. Those who are found wanting in terms of essential service workers and participating in the strike, there is action that is taken against those. And I know that in some provinces this information has been forthcoming, and I did express to provinces that there has to be consequences that follow this in terms of the no work, no pay principle. Again, we are guided by DPSA on these matters. matters. And so we don't unilaterally make a decision in terms of what would be paid in terms of COE increases and what have you as it relates to those matters. I think then just lastly, and really lastly this time, I do want to talk to the issue of underspending on the 350 grant. I think I mean, you'd note that in terms of the regulations that we put out on the new iteration, the fourth iteration of the grant, what we try to do there is to increase the threshold so that we can get more people onto the grant. However, this was declined by the Treasury. And we are indeed concerned of the fact that a lot of people, the numbers have dropped from around 10.5 million to around almost 8 million. That is a great concern for us because it means that there are some people who may not ordinarily be getting the grant and they should be getting the grant. But I do think that there are other factors that play. One is that some people are actually graduating, and we have about 10% of people who are graduating out of the grants into formal work. And that's what's one of the reasons that was declining the numbers. But of course, the other reason is because of the much more stringent rule around the means testing. We had to apply that rule, of course, by direction of the Treasury as well, but also to make sure that the right people are getting the grant. But also, I think the number of declines has increased because we found that actually people are applying for 350 Rand grant, but they actually have money that exceeds the value of the grant. And in this case, we would have we had pitched at the food poverty line. We had wanted you to know that the food poverty line has shifted again since last year, I think it is. And we tried to do that to link it to the food poverty line, but that was not successful. The very last issue is around legislation, and I've noted the concerns raised, for example, around the older person's bill and the process at the time in which it takes for us to process bills. I just want to say on the older person's bill, we actually submitted this to Parliament in May last year. I think the National Assembly has considered this. It is now with the NCOP, and we wait for the guidance. We have asked that we prioritize the bills because the implications are that we may not meet our MTSF targets if those bills are not concluded and ratified on time. And of course, we only literally have 1 year to conclude that in terms of the MTSF process. But I want to highlight this very important issue. Legislation is a very complex matter. There's a lot of dependencies that we have to take into consideration. For example, we have no control over how long it takes for the Office of the Chief State Law Advisor to issue certification for us to go to Cabinet. Post that, you then have to get approval to go for public comments. And when you go for public comments, you've got to come back, address the issue of public comments, get a SAYA certificate, and make sure that, again, that's another certification which takes some time. In fact, just this week, I escalated the matter to the DG of Justice around some delays that we experienced around one of the pieces of legislation that we have. And again, it's just really to say that there is a lot of dependencies from the Chief State Law Advisor and other related quarters where it takes us a long time to process. However, we have gone through a thorough process internally because as a national department, our core responsibility is legislation on, of course, M&E and policy development. We've gone through a thorough assessment, really just outlining the steps it takes for legislation to be passed. I must say that we may have been overly ambitious in some areas in terms of putting such a long list of legislation that we wanted to address. But one of the reasons we did that, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, is as you've indicated, there's legislation that has been sitting since 2015. A significant shift in the past 3 years is that we've pushed a serious number of pieces of legislation that have been laying dormant and not moved for many years. And I think that that's a significant move on our end. And indeed, we may have been ambitious, but I do think that we've pushed quite significantly. We are cautious now moving into the 7th administration in terms of how we do that. But of course, we prioritize those pieces of legislation that is urgent. The message I really just want to bring across on this is that there is a detailed process, and we have started working almost like a Gantt chart that assists us in ensuring that we don't miss these processes. We plan much earlier, and we don't find ourselves in a situation where legislation takes a very long time. So, Honorable Chair, let me leave it at that and thank honorable members for their inputs and questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DG.
Now I'm interested, just to know, what is the government expecting out of the departments in terms of employing equity plan, in terms of employing people with disability, except to consider what the presenter was saying of 6%, and also, I mean, you know, I don't want to get into that, but I just want to know what is expected by the government to do as department. Just follow up on that, because this really frustrates me in terms of we are preaching the gospel, but we don't meet the requirements ourselves in terms of the percentage that is expected.
Chairperson, I also have a follow-up, I think Honorable Mangane as well.
Okay, where is the DG now?
I'm here.
Okay, are you listening?
I'm here, Honorable Chair.
On the follow-ups, just.
I think you.
All right.
I want to get guidance. You were
let's
asking
also
about the question of the percentage in terms of disabilities.
Yes,
I think
expected
Chair,
by the government.
indeed,
Wait, excuse me.
There's
Excuse
difference in
me,
opinion in
acting
terms of
Linton.
where we are, where we move to. Department of Women
Linton.
want to move to 6%, which I think is an important move. I think we do need to find a way of absorbing much more persons with disabilities. I think one of the key reasons we lost a lot, I think we were just beyond 2%, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the, sorry, am I audible, Chair?
You are audible, but you can't hear us when we were stopping you. Just okay, because continue with that. I think all members and other people are listening to you. But we wanted to put the 2 follow-ups so that at least we finalize all the presentation. Can we then give the chance for Honorable Mangani and Honorable Abrams follow-ups? Mine is that 2% that you are talking about, and 6% that is being requested by the other stakeholders. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
I'm doing the follow-up on what Isabel have said. The question was saying to Isabel, because she's the one who answered, where have you ever seen any impact about the substance abuse? As they were saying, they started in some provinces. So is there any impact? If there is impact, so that other provinces should copy out of those provinces that have seen, the department see that they are doing progress. Makwara Mita. We don't just ask questions. If we ask, you must know that we are also assisting ourselves and department, because we are on the ground all the time. When people said we are 10 from the this and this and this, we wanted more clarity from them. Why the doctor didn't check you? Some they will say, no, I didn't even get in. Lastly, Mr. Linton is the one that we have said, these offices of us, social development and SASSA, the other one is that side, the other unit, you in all this unit that form part of social development, you have to travel. You get to this one, they say, no, today they are not operating in this office. They are operating into that one. That one also, we must also assist ourselves to make sure that people don't get lost in between and then come and running to the PCO, because when they come to the PCO, definitely we'll ask that question when we arrive here. Thank you very much.
Honorable Abraham.
Yes, Chairperson. Chairperson, I think I'm confusing myself, and maybe the ADG can maybe just explain it in a different way. When it comes to the SRD 350 grant and the minimum and the thresholds and the changing of the thresholds, so therefore it changed from a minimum of 350. So obviously all clients, all applicants had to have a minimum of 350 in their bank accounts or receiving that amount in order to qualify, and then it increased to 624. They must have a minimum of 624 Rand of a monthly income coming into their account, however which way. And therefore that increased the number of people coming on the grant, because now it was made higher. But then how come by increasing it, there still was on slide 48, a low uptake? So what is the difference there? How come increasing it, we are still seeing a low uptake of the grant? And maybe if the ADG can just share why then Treasury, if the money's been allocated for this and now it's still going back because of thresholds and low uptake, what then was National Treasury's reason for not increasing it to the new food poverty line index? What was the reason for turning the proposal down if the money is already been allocated and now we're not spending it and now it's being returned?
Department, can you answer?
No, thank you very much, Honorable Chair and honorable members. Let me ask Isabella to deal with the issue of substance abuse very quickly, and then I will ask. I'm not sure who from SASSA is here. I think I may have seen Brenton to deal with the issues around, or somebody from SASSA on the doctors matter, and then I will deal with the last two questions. Thank you, Isabella.
Thank you very much, DG. The issue of substance abuse, Honorable Member, we are implementing quite a number of interventions, as I've already said. Kimoja is one of them. And the issue of compendium of social and behavioral change programs, even though it has been initiated under HIV and AIDS, it really cuts across all, dealing with all the social ills, that we kind of seeing developing or escalating. Because when you look at these programs, they are about behavior change, and we start with children as young as 10, and these children are being empowered, to be able, to have the self-confidence, but also to be able, to take decisions that will benefit, their lives. And what we are doing, this is one of the issues that we discussed at our forums, one of these programs we discussed at our forums.
Stop,
Provinces, what we call Welfare Services Forum, where provinces they make presentations in terms of what is happening.
It's not answering what I'm asking.
And indeed,
Okay,
where these programs exist,
Let's just wait. I hear you.
Even though it's not as significant as we would want it to be, because we still need to ensure that we upscale. These programs, for me, I'm saying that they are also for substance, because we look at substance abuse that is really ravaging our youth, and the programs are targeting youth so that they can be able, some of them it's empowerment, some of them are programs because there are different reasons why people engage in substance abuse. It could be the issues of poverty, but also in the well of families. We see this happening, and therefore the programs are such that they target everybody. Now, learning from each other in these platforms, we therefore are able to look at the best practice model, and we are able to ensure that we exchange the information. We are even able to go to those areas where we feel there is impact and we are able to go there as a collective with different provinces so that we can be able to see how best can we really, emulate what we have seen. But I'm still saying that we still need to do more in this regard. And maybe I just want to check with members because in our previous engagement, you requested that we should provide you with a list of areas where these programs exist, and we did so. I want to check as to whether this have been able to reach members, and yeah, we can be able, to elaborate maybe on the reports where we see the best practice that are coming to members, so that they can be able to, get the information. Thanks, DJ.
Isabel.
No, thank you, Isabella.
Okay.
Is it Brenton that will come in?
No,
Yes.
what is Mamela, Isabel and Gigi?
On the
Mamu
disabilities
Mangani,
doctors issue?
acting DG.
It's a
You
very
seem not
important
to
question.
hear us. Acting DG,
Is
there's a
someone from
communication
SASSA who
being
can
done
help us?
between ourselves. Acting DG. Hello.
Colleagues?
Yeah, man.
Okay, let me see if Maureen would like to take that one.
Aye.
Kwanza kantoni bathu?
DG, you have been
Sorry, colleagues.
requested to
Can we get
respond.
somebody-
May you please respond? They were
The CEO is
trying
here.
to stop you.
Can somebody from SASSA help us, please?
Yeah, bethu na.
We are not stopping. We are saying, I want to talk to Isabel. She answered the question that I
CEO?
didn't ask her.
Yeah, we seem to have a challenge now.
Chair, I'm trying to phone.
Because I've asked somebody from
someone
SASSA
to
to
the
respond.
department.
Am I audible, colleagues?
You are not. I
Hello?
didn't.
Yes, am I audible?
Hello.
Yes, Chair, am I audible?
Acting DG. Mamu Mangani is saying that the answer that Isabel gave, it's not what she asked. But you seem to have a breakdown sort of communication amongst ourselves. You don't hear us because we try to stop you by not continuing and give another one, but just to trash out this question of Jane Mangani. Will you please, Honorable Mangani, repeat your question once more?
Okay. Isabel was talking about this program. My question was, she said they have started in some provinces. I said, where have you seen impact on, in which area have you seen this program doing impact? If
Okay.
so, assist us so that we must know. Is the question simple as that? Thank you.
Okay. Can you then, there's an echo now.
Thank you very much, Chair. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are. It's the only
okay.
thing is that
No,
you
thanks,
don't
Chair.
hear
So,
us.
Isabella,
our
you want to come
side.
back in?
Yes. I hope I'll be audible now. Ne?
You are.
I'm talking about the programs that we have initiated as the department, basically the social and behavioral change programs, but also, these programs are being implemented in schools, isn't it? And that's where we know where the problem is. Now, as they are implemented in schools, we also work with the families. At the moment, I cannot be exact in terms of maybe being specific in terms of, we can send information in terms of areas where we are certain that they are making impact. But we know that the study has been conducted, by HSRC to say that where these programs are being implemented, being the list that we have supplied to the portfolio committee, there's a difference in that. So I will make, the information, the exact information, honorable member, available, so that we get this in detail, because we've got informations according to provinces. So it will be proper if I avail information of the reports that we are getting according to provinces with specific areas, because they are implemented in schools and, with some family members. Thank you.
The question, Isabel, was that you as in the national office, have you seen an impact or improvement in any? Keep it up. In fact, what you should do, since we are still going to conduct provinces, and you tell us about which province can you say that they did that and they are satisfied, there is this improvement. Let's wait until you find out the answer. Can we get into the second question of Honorable Abrahams?
Okay. No, thanks very much, Chair. Maybe let me also add to that one, and indeed we'll provide the information. But the programs like Kimoja, programs like YOLO, programs like Resiha. Let me give an example. We're in Alexander 3 weeks ago, dealing with some of the social behavioral change programs that we have there, together with supported through PEPFAR, but also through our own funding. We went into centers where we saw how young people are actually building resilience through the programs that we've implemented in Alex. At what is that center called? I can't remember. But in Alexander, you could see the difference that young people are actually having in terms of the resilience that they've built around peer pressure and other related matters that stop them from getting into areas that they shouldn't be involved in. Even those young people who are infected or have HIV and AIDS, how we are able to address the issues of stigma, but also how parents come in with their adolescent kids into some of these sessions, the practical sessions that are taking place in Alex. In fact, the center in Alex sees over, I think they said over 4,500 people. It's a huge center, and they see over 4,500 people coming through the doors of that center. And these are young people as part of this, the community of Alexander. And I think that that's quite significant. I like the one thing that really stood out for me was when the parents came with their kids to sit down and talk about issues around teenage pregnancy and talk about issues concerning issues of substance abuse and drugs, where and one of the parents actually said, her and I used to fight a lot. We used to argue a lot because she never used to understand me. And the fact that we have some social workers in some instances, even in some of these areas, they were able to assist by saying, actually we must understand kids at this level. However, you must instill various values and various ethos so that kids are young people or adolescents are able to understand certain things. I thought that was quite useful. And I think that the funders and supporters of that program were very, very impressed at some of the work that is happening. But this is another significant part which I actually appreciated more in that program. The young people who are now the facilitators in that center happen to be the young people that actually went through those programs. So we have actually absorbed those young people and are paying them a stipend because they saw value in the services that that center gave to them. And they are now employed at the center, being able to assist others. And I hope that when you come to the oversight visit, Honorable Chair, we'd have an opportunity to take you to this center and a few others where you could see practically the difference that some of these programs are having on the ground. And I think I just wanted to speak specifically to that. In universities, we're also seeing how our interventions are changing the tide on certain things, where young people are beginning to stand up. In fact, just 3 weeks ago, if not 4, we had in Cape Town, the minister was handing over some support to those grade 12 learners from the previous financial year who were supported through the CSG. One of the things we said to those young people is that, you know what, you're going into a different space. You're going to have your own room, your own space now. You're going to have, free range, as it were. And we are saying to them, our services in terms of giving you support through the CSG to get through school and into university doesn't stop there. Our social workers are available to assist you when it comes to areas of peer pressure. You must be able to be resilient and get through those challenges. And at any given time, please feel free to engage with our social workers. And again, that's just another practical example of how these programs are having some level of impact. Now, very quickly, I think there was the issue of doctors. Very quickly, if somebody can come in on that from SASSA, I don't know whether Brenton.
Thanks, DG. Good afternoon, Honourable Chair and members, DG Minister. Quickly on the doctors, it would be unusual or not appropriate if doctors were turning clients away. So we would like to ask the Honourable Member to give us the cases so that we can take it up in with the particular doctor in the region. I do know that doctors sometimes ask patients, especially if it's a new patient and they don't have a file or a clinical record on the patient, they do sometimes ask the patient to bring their existing medicine that they're taking they are taking, so that they can get some indication of what they are using for treatment. Otherwise, have to start the assessment from the beginning. But it wouldn't be appropriate for a doctor to be turning anyone away if they didn't have their medicines with them, or not assessing the client in that instance. So it would help us if we could maybe get the specifics of the cases that the member's referring to, and then we can investigate it a little bit further. Thanks, DG.
Thank you. DG, is there anyone?
Yes, just myself. Just the last issue around the issue of the means testing, which was raised by one of the members. See, we didn't have a threshold in the first and second iteration. We didn't have a means testing rather. And when we realized that very little people are actually getting onto the grant in the second iteration, we then decided that no, we must implement this. Of course, Treasury did say that we should do that because we should work within the means that we have, and they gave us, I think it was 44 billion rands at the time. So it was a very balancing act that we had to take there. Had we not implemented the means test threshold, we would have actually had more people, right, Brink? We would have had more people on the grants, all right? If we had not implemented the means test, which Treasury argue would have broken the lid off the ceiling. And so they said, no, let's have a means test so you can reduce and work within. Unfortunately, us having that means test and reducing meant that more people also who qualified in the first iteration would not be qualified because of that criteria. But I think the important point to put across here is really the fact that this issue, in fact, we presented to Treasury and said, you know what, there is this savings now. Our view is that we can actually take this money in the next iteration and increase if you're working at 8 million people, you can actually increase that from 350 Rand to 420 Rand. That's the position we put forward to the Treasury. And we also indicated that the means testing has, the food poverty line has now moved from 624 to 668, I think it is. Help me, Brink and Maureen. So we were then saying, can we then also increase the means testing again with the idea of trying to get more people into the grant? And they declined all of that. So that's part of the reason why we are where we are. We did put the case forward that, look, all the savings here that we've achieved, we actually want to use it to improve the value of the grant in the next iteration. Unfortunately, that request was declined. But we continue to be to try and fight for this, to ensure that we try, because we put the case forward that, you know, what 350 rands bought you 3 years ago is not what it can buy you now. And the fact that the real value of 350 rand has actually diminished, where it used to be 11 rand 30 a day or 11 rand 20 a day. The real value, if you look at it now in terms of what the food basket buys you now, and there's some research that has just recently come out last week around this, actually the real value can drop below 8 rands per day. And if you have to take 8 rands, walk into a shop and decide what you're going to buy, you're probably going to get one loaf of bread if you are lucky, and that's not sustaining you for the rest of the month. So that's the point we're putting. And again, we are not oblivious to the fact that the fiscus is constrained. We are aware that the fiscus is constrained, but we're saying, of course, we want people to create more jobs. And I think the fact that we've had about 10% graduation out of the grants is good. Of course, it's not good enough, and we'd want to have more, but I think that that's working towards the right mechanisms. Of course, we must make sure, as one of the members said, ensure that our strategies to graduate people out of the grants into formal work employment through active labor market policies and programs is achieved and is clear cut, and we must begin to say this. And I think next week we are coming to the committee to present on this. Just as I close, Chair, I want to appreciate the comment made by Honorable Stock in terms of the award that DST has received. I want to also just indicate that yesterday we received confirmation that SASSA has also achieved good practice awards with ISA. In other words, South Africa has been found to be implementing the best social security system on the continent and in the region, and I think that that's a significant achievement in terms of the work that we've done. Of course, we've been asked to not really put this out in the open as yet, because there's other processes that need to follow ahead of the award ceremony that will take place sometime in May. So let me just thank you once again, honorable members, for your questions, comments, and I hope that we've been able to deal with everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Team TG. I think for today, we have exhausted the questioning. Then out of that, as Honorable Stock has really congratulated you, I think all of us in the portfolio committee, we are really congratulating. We will be one of the countries that are also excelling in the security things. So keep up the good work that you're doing, but as you have said that you still have to do more. You know, it frustrates when you hear this thing of, especially this thing of the grants from the side of SASSA. I think we must check it up. I know for a fact that Jerusalem and Rome was not built in 1 year. It was built in many years. Now, I make an example because of Jerusalem, knowing that at least at the end of the day, you also build something out of all the challenges that we are posing and putting in front of you. Thanks ever so much. Let's release you as the department and thank everyone in the meeting, but we still have to continue with the pink paper as the portfolio committee. Lindy.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Yes, minutes, pink papers.
Okay. Chair, we have 3 sets of minutes to adopt, 15 and 22 of February, and the last set is on the 1st of March. So just running out of my data, it might be finished at any time. So for the 15th of February, Chair, members that were present, you, Chair, Member Stock, Member Mhlongo, Member Manganye, Member Pelangulu, Member Abraham, Member Eris, Marie, Fanda Merve Sukars, and Member Masango was not present. She put an apology, and we had departmental officials from SASSA and DSD. We have your own parliamentary support staff. Chair, in terms of the minister was also present in this meeting, and she gave the political overview, the opening remarks, and then the date, the agenda for discussion on this particular meeting was a briefing by DSD and SASSA on the status reports of the payment of social grants. This was the first meeting on this in this year And then member, your Minister Zulu gave the opening remarks, and then the department made their presentation on the subject matter, which was headed by member Uramakhoba, because the CEO was on leave, so she was not present in the meeting. And then and member Ndala from the acting CEO of Post Bank also made some comments on the presentation on the subject matter, Chair. And then the deliberations, the deliberation around the vacancy rate at regional offices, also the agreements between SASSA, SAPO, and Post Bank. The committee had a lengthy discussion around that, and lack of communication was one of the issues the committee observed between SASSA and grant beneficiaries. There's lack of communication, and they need to improve that. There's also a service fees, and the monthly service fees that is paid to banks. Chair, there's also energy supply. I think it's an issue of generators, where some payphones don't have any generators. If it's load shedding, it's difficult to render services to grant beneficiaries. There's also commuters to both bank, and then there's also non-payment of SRD, and also an issue of fraud was also emphasized by the committee, that they need to also put systems in place to curb fraud and bring those culprits into books. Also, there's an issue of outreach program, the gold cards. There was an issue of expiry of gold cards, where members, when they go to a retail store, they say their card has been expired. And there's also an issue of municipality bills and missing middle. Chair, it was such a long meeting, and a number of issues were raised by the members. CSG top-up grant, and then the fake social media pages, where we deal with these messages most of the time from our WhatsApp group, where I was required to verify from SASSA the issue of disaster management. There were a few recommendations made, resolution made by the committee, and that SAPO must provide a full list of SAPO offices closing in the country, and they mentioned that the offices closed. Also, they also advised that SASSA department must employ more permanent social workers so that communication are better well equipped.
Lindy, your data is finished now. Yeah.
Hi, hello, Chairperson. Your Lisa here. I probably that's
Yes,
the case.
you-
Chair. Yes,
Okay.
because we are in the same zone, so we are both having load sharing. Maybe I can assist the chair because I have sharing rights. And I
Please.
still have connection, yes. But I
Please,
didn't
you.
open the minutes. Can I quickly just open them, Chair? Just a few minutes, Chairperson, sorry. We're just taking down notes.
Okay.
Just opening my folder, Chair. She was on the 15th of February. Okay, Chair, I'm gonna open all of
Yes.
them so that I can, 15 and 22 February, yes, okay. Sorry, I'm looking for them. I opened them. Where are they now?
Okay, Yoli, and she was about to finish then.
The 15th.
Yes.
Okay, Chair. They're sitting here. See, okay, I see them now, Chair.
I'm back, Chair.
Okay.
Back. Okay.
Finish up.
Finish
All
up.
right. Finish up the 15th Feb.
I'm done with the 15th.
Okay. Honorable members.
Chair.
Honorable Mangan.
Yes, I propose that we must, I propose to move for the adoption of these minutes as the true reflection of what we discussed on the 15th. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Manganye. The seconder.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Dikgang Stock.
Yes.
Second, a proposal for the adoption of the minutes. Thank you.
Second, minutes are seconded. The ones of the 22nd, Lindy.
Chair, the 22nd of February, Chair, the agenda on this day, the committee received a briefing from the DSD, the Justice Department on Violence and Murder of Children. Chair, members present, Member Mvana, Member Stock, Member Hlong, Member Manganye, Member Masango, Member Abrahams, Member Aris, Member Mare, Member Van der Merwe. Only two apologies from Member Pelangulu and Member Sekers. Member, we did have a delegation from DSD and then from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development Chair. And then we also have your support team chair who was also present. Chair, we adopted the agenda and there were no minutes scheduled for adoption. And the Department of Justice gave the report, which highlighted a number of issues, the framework, the purpose of presentation, the Gender-Based Violence Amendment Acts, a number of acts were mentioned during the presentation that speak to the violence on children and femicide. Chair, also the minister also gave political remarks, which are clearly articulated in the minutes, Chair. Also, we had a presentation from the department, which was headed by the acting DG, Mr. Mtunu, which highlighted the purpose, the mandate, the constitutional analysis, and then the programs, the intervention and impact and recommendations, Chair. And then the members, the committee deliberated in great length on the issues, especially on the Department of Justice. They also highlighted the issue of online web portal for protection orders, and also the use of social media to commit child-targeted violence was also an issue raised by the committee. There was also an integrated case management system, the committee where they wanted to know where the system will be upgraded and to capture child matters, and also raise a concern over the low conviction rates on child abuse cases, and high number of these cases are withdrawn. That was a concern. They also speak about the bail issue applications and also reporting of child abuse cases by ECD principals is also a matter that really requires attention. Also, the deliberation as far as the DSD is concerned, the department, the committee also raised the issue of employment of social workers, and they also wanted the department when they're going to engage the National Treasury on the absorption of social workers, because I think this is an issue that the committee has been emphasizing, that we need more social workers in order to implement the Children's Act. Also, Chair, there was an issue of child protection that was raised by the members, and also the issue of social and behavioral change programs that were mentioned by the committee, by the department, and member gave some kind of input around this program about the YOLOs and other programs, Chair. Also the non-payment of NPOs. I think this is a long standing issue about the late payment on NPOs, which led to some being closed. Chair, there was also a national directive to implement the Domestic Violence Amendment Act and then the intermediary services. There are a number of issues, Chair, as listed in these minutes. There are two resolutions that were made that the DSD must share compendium on social and behavior changes program and where the events are taking place with the committee. It will also improve on its reporting in terms of the reach of this program in provinces and districts. I think the information also assists the committee when it conducts the oversight, so that we can be able to pay site visits to these programs. Also, the DSD to share a study on the impact of social behavior program with the committee chair. These are the minutes before the committee for adoption. But unfortunately, I was not present in this meeting. It's when I was hospitalized, but I've managed to capture what Yuli has just compiled. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lindy. Can we then give over to honorable members? Honorable Stokes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I move for the adoption of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stock. Any second?
Seconded, Chair, Honorable Abrams.
Honorable Abrams. Then, thank you. The minutes have been seconded. Is there anyone who, Lindy, is there anything that you have left out?
Chair, the last set, Chair.
Yes.
The last set is the 1st of March, where the committee received representation, firstly from DSD, from Department of Basic Education, as well as the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities. And then the content of the presentation were on services and programs for people living with disability, including children, Chair. The members that were present in this meeting was Member Mvana. As the chairperson of this committee, we have Member Stock, Member Hlongo, Member Manganye, Member Pilangulu, Member Masango, Member Abrahams, Member Mare, Member Iris, Member Fana Merve, and Member Sukers was also not present, but he tendered an apology, Chair. We had departmental officials and your entourage of the support staff, as well as the officials from basic education and officials from the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities were also present to present their case, Chair. Apologies were also from the Minister of the Department of Women, who was unable to attend, as well as Minister of Basic Education, Mamo who were both attending the cabinet meeting, Chair. We adopted the agenda, which was moved by Member Manganye and seconded by Member Hlongo. There were no meeting minutes scheduled for adoption on this day, Chair. And then there were the minister remarks. She also, I think this day, our member Gillian from the NSOP passed on. And then the minister's overview remarks, she also alluded to the passing of Member Gillian, and then she highlighted very important issues regarding the department's direction. And then we've received, Chair, the presentation from the basic education, which was led by the Director General, Mr. Mweli, where he gave introductory remarks and overview and handed over to Mr. Ngobo, who take through the committee in the rest of the presentation, Chair, the second phase of the presentation, but the details of the presentation was given to members. But if members want them, I can just provide the presentation. Also, we proceeded to receive a presentation from the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities, and then which was led by the DG, Ms. Maluleka. And then this is the outline of the presentation, where they mentioned the 9 strategic pillars of the white paper, and also the key policy and legislative priorities, which was articulated in the presentation by the department. It was quite an extensive presentation, Chair. We also proceeded to receive the presentation from our DSD, also was led by Ms. Molopo, the director who took the committee through the presentation. The members deliberated and raised a number of concerns, Chair. On this one, I think because of the number of presentations that were planned for this meeting, the members couldn't exhaust any question because of the time constraints, and then the questioning time was deferred to a next meeting where the committee would call once again the presentation, the department to come and respond, and then members were requested to provide the written questions to me so that I can give it to members, to the department to come and respond. That is that meeting in a nutshell, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Lindy. Okay, then can we give over to the honorable members who is to check whether, what do they say about these minutes?
Chairperson. Chairperson.
Honorable Manganye, over to
I
you.
propose the adoption of the minutes as the true reflection.
Thank you very much, Honorable Manganye. Any seconder to this?
Thank you very much, Honorable Stock. I second the proposal for the adoption of the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Stock. The minutes have been adopted and seconded. Lindy, is there anything?
Yes, Chair. Omitted to mention two approaches. They are just been reminded. Member Bilankulu is in New York attending the UN Commission on the Status of Women, the 67th session. She submitted an apology, and I've received apology while I was in the meeting already for Member Sukers who had.
Is Sukers in New York also? Lindy?
Chairperson.
Hello.
Yes, I apologize, but I joined late because of our time, our different times. Thank you.
With whom are you with in New York? Who have you traveled with?
With the Committee for Women, Youth and Persons with Disability.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We wish you all the best in that country.
Thank you.
And we know that you will represent us. You will represent us well. Thanks. Lindy? I know for a fact that there is a workshop that has been confirmed on the 20. Which date do you know?
It is, I think, 28th and 29th of March, Chair.
Yes, 29th, 28th and 29th.
Yes.
Is it 29th and 30th?
Probably 29th, 30th, 29th, 30th.
Yes, I think it's 29th and 30th. It has been confirmed that we will have the workshop that was outstanding. And in terms of the trip, Yoli, do you know anything?
Oh, no, unfortunately, I don't, Chair. Logistics.
Okay. Now let's wait for the information from Lindy. But I know for a fact that it's still in progress. We haven't yet managed to get the final approval on it. But we were still adamant in terms of saying Canada is the best country to visit because it has got this thing of the elderly people that we have to go and study for it and do the exchange. Thanks ever so much, honorable members. I think we are done with everything that was on the agenda. And we are looking forward to have another meeting, which will be according to our plan and schedule. The meeting is closed. I wish to thank everyone. Thank you.